What if I were to suggest that you play a key role in the awakening world? And that you are watching this because you have heard the call. We can start right now by opening our hearts and minds. Welcome to the awakening world.
Good evening, everybody, and happy Independence Day. And let's expand that thought about independence way above and beyond the Declaration of Independence in the United States, but really embracing independence for each and every one of us as sovereign beings. And about the most wonderful thought that I have as I think about independence is that we are moving as a species from survival to thriving. We're actually learning in this awakening world that's taking place, and on all the shows that we do every week, we're learning wonderful things. We're learning about our consciousness. We're learning about the expansion of an awakening world. And we're learning about tonight how we create miracles scientifically. Now, of course, we've been doing this show for over 6 years now, and we've done a lot of wonderful shows about the wonderful way that spirituality and science are coming together. And that's a big part of this awakening world, the marriage of science and spirituality. In fact, we've got Dr. Kat Lewis with us tonight, and she's one of my favorite teachers of that beautiful blend. But we also have a wonderful new guest who we haven't met before, and his name is Dr. Larry Farwell, and you're going to hear all about him. And he's going to share with us his vision and wisdom and understanding about the science of creating miracles. And I'm really excited because Victoria Shaw, who introduced us to Dr. Larry, is my co-host, and I'm going to introduce her in a moment. But before we go any further, I want to get us moving and grooving and rocking and rolling. So here is our wonderful house musical artist, our beloved Omar Shar.
Hey there, and welcome everybody who's watching on YouTube and Facebook and our streaming partners. Yes, 250 years young today. What more can I say except take off your disguise, show your starry eyes, open up your heart and be with me. Truly we're divine, let your spirit shine. I am one within you and I love you so, I love you so. Just look at us now, waves of inspiration filling our lives with boundless joy. We're speaking our truth, basking in the pure light, freeing the way for all of us. Take off your disguise, show your starry eyes, open up your heart, be with me. Truly we're divine, let your spirit shine. I am one within you, and I love you so. I love you so. Orient speed. Da, 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 We're here on the new road, where air is so much clearer, creating a world of unity and ecstasy. Surrounding us is true love, filling empty spaces, rejoice in the word, unity. There we go. Take off your disguise, show your starry eyes, open up your heart, be with me. Truly we're divine, let your spirit shine. I am one within you, and I love you so. I love you so. Take off your disguise, show your starry eyes, open up your heart, dance with me. Truly we're divine, let your spirit shine. I am one within you, and I love you so. I love you so. Take off your disguise, show your starry eyes, open up your heart, be with me. Truly you're divine, let your spirit shine. I am one within you, and I love you so. I love you so. Da-da, dum-da-da-dum-da-da, bum-bum-bum-ba-da-da,
Thank you for a beautiful, powerful, fun sh- start to. Did you add a little new bit in the middle there?
No, I didn't add a new bit in the middle. It's just that as we get to higher frequencies, we can all actually listen to where the music's coming from. And I've noticed that literally, as we all raise, people go, "Oh my goodness, I never heard that before. I never understood that before." So anyway, that's my response, Scott.
All right.
Namaste, beloved brother.
Love you much. And Omashar will be back with two more songs tonight. And I am going to read just a couple of the comments that have come in. First of all, thank you everybody for being here in the Zoom room. And a big hello to those of you watching the recording. And as Omashar already pointed out, thank you to the Sign Network for getting us out to as many as sometimes 200 Facebook groups and pages, YouTube channels. So welcome everybody who's watching, no matter how and when and where. Lorianne Speed wrote, "That was so great, Omashar. Thank you. Your energy, love, and joy is contagious." Yes, it is. And by the way, coming from Lorianne, who is an amazing musical artist herself. Dia Therese writes, because I had asked people to ask a little bit about where they're from, but also miracles in their life. And she writes, "Yes, the science of miracles. The greatest miracle I've created is having the 36-year mystery head pain quiet enough to function most of the time. I'm participating in life at a full, joy-filled level. I created the miracle by drawing from the field that which heals by love. Maximum blessings and thank you. And she sends her love to the Global Peace Tribe audience. So, Dia, that's a beautiful miracle to share. Thank you so very, very much. Uh, and I appreciate this poster that Trisha just put up in the chat box. And this is the America that I certainly celebrate as well. So thank you. In our America, love wins, Black Lives Matter, immigrants and refugees are welcome, disabilities are respected, women are in charge of their bodies, people and planet valued over profit, diversity is celebrated. Thank you, Tricia, for posting this. And I agree absolutely with each and every one of those. And yes, all people are equal. So thank you for that. That's a beautiful way to celebrate. Um, I think what really most of the people on our Global Peace Tribe would agree with that as well. We've got people coming in from all over Ecuador, Santa Barbara, all over the United States, and it's really very, very beautiful. And I saw one other one that I wanted to read. Susan Blomquist writes, my favorite thing about holidays is music. Today, the local radio played sets of Americana music, Willie Nelson, Neil Young, John Prine songs. It was a walk through a long journey of American anthems. And that's a really beautiful way to also celebrate our country. So thank you for that, Susan. Um, and finally, I know that there was one other person who had posted a really fun miracle story, but I'm not. Here it is. Sage Robinson writes, I was given a sure diagnosis of going paralyzed from the neck down by 3 different surgeons in 2010. I have completely changed that reality and I am thriving. I'm going to put you up for a moment there. There is Sage completely thriving. And Sage, it's great to have you with us tonight. Thank you. And good job. Good. That's about the best miracle a person can create. Absolutely. All right. Well, we're all going to be working on creating miracles. And in the beginning, there was Victoria Shaw, and it was good. Victoria, of course, is someone we originally met through Soul Search, and I've had the good fortune to share some meals with her and connect with her, and she's very, very special. And she is who is bringing Dr. Larry to us. You've been collaborating with Dr. Larry. Of course, Victoria has a beautiful retreat center in Southern California. She's also one of our favorite soul searchers. She's pretty amazing at everything she does. But tonight we're going to talk about this part of you, Victoria, your miracle creating self and your retreat site and your collaboration with Dr. Larry. So
Yay.
tell us a little bit. Yeah.
Yay. I'm excited. Creating miracles, law of attraction, understanding all of that was a game changer for me in everything I do, including the work that I do as an intuitive and a spiritual guide. Because for me, that's a fundamental law of the universe. It's how everything works. And the more that I've learned to think of myself, my life, everything that way, it's just changed everything for me. And I met Dr. Larry from a mutual friend who kept saying, Sage, who we just had on, who kept saying, you have to have this guy in your podcast. You have to have this guy in your podcast. And I think it took like a year before that finally happened. And the two of us were able to connect. And it was just like fireworks. I had the honor of meeting him in person for the first time a couple of days ago. And one of the most brilliant minds I've had an opportunity to interact with, which is saying a lot. It's saying a lot because I know a lot of really smart peeps. But it was just so much fun picking his brain. And, even though my background is as an academic, right? And that's where I started. For me, I've always been kind of a cheater, and I realized I just got through Princeton and Columbia channeling. I just didn't know what it was called. But Dr. Larry's the real deal. And he's someone who I think really takes that, left brain brilliance and that spiritual awareness, and brings them together in just the most beautiful way. And I have had so much fun picking his beautiful, remarkable brain, and I think you guys are going to really enjoy him too. And do you want me to give a little more about his background, Scott?
Absolutely. Yeah,
All
tell us
right,
more.
because he's an impressive dude. He is a Harvard-educated neuroscientist and the author of the #1 best-selling book, The Science of Creating Miracles: Neuroscience, Quantum Physics, and Living the Life of Your Dreams. And I have read that book inside and out. It's phenomenal. He's also the world's leading expert on the science of creating miracles. Time Magazine has selected him as the top 100 innovators of our century. He's been featured on CBS Evening News, ABC World News, CNN, 60 Minutes, The New York Times, and other probably equally impressive, if such thing exists, media around the world. He's consulted for the FBI, CIA, U.S. Navy. He invented brain fingerprinting and applied it to his work with the FBI, CIA, and counterterrorism agencies worldwide. He also, this one's really cool, invented the first brain-computer interface to use brain waves to communicate through the computer and speech synthesizer. So much goodness. And he also has a patent pending on a quantum bridge to integrate human intelligence and AI on a quantum predictive. I don't even know what this means, but it sounds really exciting. BCI to measure, predict, and train peak performance using brainwaves. He's an extraordinary teacher, human, super humble. And I'm just excited to introduce him. And we've been teaching together a little bit, and we're going to be teaching together in August. We're going to do a retreat at Cactus Blossom. So I'm just having a ball.
Well, we definitely are going to learn all about that retreat because we want to go to that. But with no further ado, the man, the myth, the legend, here he is, Dr. Larry Farwell, and welcome, Larry, to the Awakening World.
Thank you. Delightful to be here, Scott, and delightful to see you again, Victoria. It seems like it was yesterday.
It was.
We were together in your place giving a talk together. So it's a delight to be here. I'm so happy to see all of you bright faces here on the 4th of July.
Absolutely. Dr. Larry, what led you into this path of interest?
That's actually the first question that Victoria asked me when we last talked, and I was thinking we'd get a little bit more into some of the science of it first, but since you asked, the life is an experience, and what we're all interested in pursuing, including us scientists, is experience, an experience of higher realms of human life. I'd always been interested in consciousness. I'd always been interested in what life is all about, what it's like to be a human being, how we can live miraculous lives. And I had an experience when I was 13 years old that really changed my life. It really transformed my life. And I was 13 years old, and I was drowning. And by that, I did not mean that I was sort of wondering what my life was about and at loose ends and trying to figure out what to do. What I mean is I was underwater and I was out of breath. I was out of air. I was out of oxygen, and I was out of time. So that was an unusual experience for me. And it made an impact. I realizing that I only had a few seconds left to live, I consciously let go of everything. All my intentions, my desires, my attachments, let go of everything. And at that moment, several things happened that really transmuted my entire life. One thing was, and this all happened at once, my whole life flashed before my eyes. And I've read in books, you're drowning, your life flashed before your eyes. It wasn't like that at all. It wasn't like the words. It was like just as clear as this moment and as complete as this moment, except all at once. And I never realized that I could have that expanded level of consciousness. Simultaneously, I experienced myself as an unbounded, infinite, cosmic being beyond time and space. I had no regrets that this particular lifetime was over after only 13 years. And I felt as though I saw my life the way it really was. I saw, it's as if I'd been asleep. I awakened from a dream and I said, oh yeah, this is what my life really is. And it was just, it was what it was. The experience doesn't really fit into words, but I felt my life was what it was. I could see the perfection in it. It wasn't that I didn't see the mistakes or the pain or any of those things. It's just that it was what it was, and it was perfect. And I realized, well, this is the experience of life that's real. And this is really what I've been seeking my short life. And at that moment then, I thought, well, now that I've experienced my life the way it really is, now that I've really seen the reality of my life, I'm not ready to leave. I'm not getting out of here. I've got a life to live. I've got communications to do. I can teach people. I can learn something. I can learn how to experience this unbounded awareness all the time. And I needed a miracle because otherwise I would be gone from this life in a matter of seconds. So from that unbounded level of consciousness, I had that faint impulse of creating a miracle, and I got the miracle. And I did not drown. I got to the surface. I was choking and gasping for air and so on, and the experience was gone. At that moment, I realized this is what I'm here on earth for. At that moment, I became a seeker. I realized that what life is about, and in particular my life is about, is seeking enlightenment, seeking higher states of consciousness. So that's what got me started. And that's actually, that experience is what inspired me to go to Harvard University, to get my PhD, to study neuroscience. Because if you want to study consciousness and experience of life from a scientific perspective, you really need to learn about the brain, and also you need to learn about quantum physics. So those have been the two major things that I've studied.
Well, I'm sure glad we started with that story. That's a beautiful, beautiful story. Wow. And how wonderful at such an early age to have such clarity, such expanded consciousness, and then to follow it up with all the hard work of going to Harvard, all the hard work of doing what you've done to build the education to back up this beautiful life purpose that you committed to at an early age.
Yes.
All right. Now I'll let you tell the science of it. But I'm glad we started with your story. Thank you.
All right. Well, there's the neuroscience, and then there's the quantum physics. Begin with the quantum physics. Now, I'm going to geek out for a few minutes here, only a few, about the structure of the universe. And this will become relevant to our experience. I mean, life is an experience, and this is all about experience. It'll become relevant to our experience in a minute, but for a minute here, it's just going to be the science stuff. I have in front of me here a table. You might be able to hear me knocking on the table. It appears to me to be very solid and brown. That's my experience of it. However, if we look more scientifically at that table, not more woo-woo, but more scientifically at that table, it is not solid at all. You see mostly empty space and molecules moving around within there. If we look within the molecules, we look more scientifically within the molecules, we'll see atoms. We look within the atoms, we'll see elementary particles, protons, neutrons, electrons. We look within those, we'll see quarks. We look deeper, and again, we're talking science here. We look deeper beyond the quarks to the string theory level, we'll simply see vibrating strings. So this table, it looks to you and me like being so much separate from the air around it and from my body and from the stars and the rest of the cosmos. Actually, it's not at all. It's simply a pattern, a different pattern of vibrations. And what's vibrating? Well, Einstein, very bright guy, Einstein coined the term unified field to describe that universal field that vibrates into the quantum particle wave phenomena that we experience as a physical universe. And we call it the conscious unified field because the essential constituent of the universe and the essential constituent of you and me is the same thing. It's our consciousness. Essential constituent of our life is our consciousness. It's what's present throughout any experience that we have. And the mechanics that I delved into, and I'll get more into this a little bit later, the mechanics of how you could create a miracle, as I did when I was 13, and we all have done in our lives. The mechanics of that have to do with the relationship of the conscious unified field with the physical universe. And all of the wise people throughout the ages have said that you pluck a guitar string and it sets up a resonance. It vibrates at a particular resonance frequency. Omar Shah will appreciate this. And it vibrates at a particular resonant frequency. Other instruments in the environment pick up that resonance, and then you have, they're vibrating in that same harmony. So what happens, the way we create our lives, and I'll talk about measuring this in the lab in a while, but the way we create our lives, we create an impulse on the level of our consciousness, conscious unified field. And since that is the same as the foundation of the whole physical creation, we set up a resonance, faint impulse on the level of our consciousness that moves the conscious unified field, and then it shows up in our lives. The intellect shouts, the emotions scream, the intuition whispers, and it's at that whisper level, beyond that quiet whisper level, we to set up a faint impulse, and that's what moves nature in a very powerful way to create our lives. So that's the fundamentals of how that science works, and a little bit later I'll get into some of the scientific research we've done on that. Victoria, you look like you are thinking something.
Yeah, I'm thinking the same question I was asking you. Well, I mean, I want you to get to the part where you did this in the lab because it's mind-blowing to me what you did, because he has like scientifically demonstrated how our intention, how our impulse, you use different verbiage, impacts matter, which is mind-blowing to me. I mean, it's not mind-blowing that it's so, it's mind-blowing that, you have shown that it's so. And so I'm wondering if the question I have now is jumping ahead. So Dr. Larry, if it is, stop me, but you did see my face making a question. Because when you talk about intuition and you talk about that impulse, and I was thinking this when we were talking together a couple nights ago, I think sometimes, we have these like subtle impulse feelings, these moments of alignment, these moments of, and then boom, we connect, and those things, they appear, the miracles appear. Those are those, intense moments of alignment. But I think a lot of times too, we're not in that state. And yet, life is still happening. We're still creating, right? And sometimes we're even creating big things. So I don't know if there's a question in there, and I don't know if I jumped too far ahead, but that's what my mind was doing when you called me out.
All right. Well, I will talk a little bit later about the research I did with my dad. My dad is Dr. George Farwell, who's a physicist. He's one of the guys who developed the atomic bomb. So we did nuclear physics research together, quantum physics research together. However, what you've actually asked about is something where I've got to geek out about the neuroscience a little bit in order to be able to answer the question. So let me geek out a little bit about the fundamentals of neuroscience, how the brain learns and evolves. So you're 2 years old. You're crawling around on the floor. You touch the floor, you touch the wall, you touch the chair leg. Not much happens. There's not much to learn there. If you touch the hot stove, all of a sudden you have an aha experience. Now there's something important going on. There's something there. I need to create a shift somehow to take into consideration that a hot stove is something I got to know about. So when we have that aha experience, it opens up the brain for reprogramming. Some shift needs to take place so that our life is going to be improved by that experience. And I measure brainwaves. I'm a neuroscientist. I measure human brainwaves, electroencephalography, EEG, electrical impulses from the brain. And when the brain engages in a particular activity, there is a pattern in the brainwaves that you can pick up from outside the scalp, the electrophysiological pattern, EEG patterns of changes in electrical voltages, patterns in electrical voltages. And when you have that aha experience, there is a particular brainwave phenomenon called a memory and encoding related multifaceted electroencephalographic response, MER, murmur. And these murmur moments are how the brain learns and evolves. And by the way, it doesn't have to be a hot stove to create a murmur moment. It can actually be a wonderful experience. Anything that brings your attention into the present, that creates an aha experience. In fact, when Buddha was sitting under the Bodhi tree and he had that aha experience of gaining enlightenment, I'll bet if we had EEG measurements from his head, I keep putting my fingers on the places in the head where we put the electrodes to measure brainwaves. If we had an electrode cap on his head measuring brainwaves, we would have picked up a murmur moment. So these murmur moments are how we grow and evolve. Now, often a murmur moment is something that's sort of like a hot stove, something which gets our attention because it's something that's not too delightful. Now, when something, and this is going to get to your question, when something comes along that seems like a threat to us or a detriment to us, it usually seems to be a detriment to our value, our safety, or power, or some combination of those things. So we carry around, you said sometimes we're not creating the most ideal thing. We carry around within ourselves an inner blueprint. The reality is that you're 100% safe, 100% powerful, and 100% valuable because you are that conscious unified field, that infinite realm that creates the whole of the universe. However, we carry around an inner blueprint that falls short of who we truly are, and we resonate with that. And that resonance goes out, and then we have a life that matches that inner resonance. And now we have objective evidence. Oh, I really am unsafe. I really am not entirely safe. I really am not entirely valuable. It's not just within. We've created it without, and now we see it in our environment. We've got objective evidence. So how do we shift this inner blueprint so we start to radiate our true nature? 100% safe, valuable, powerful, that unbounded level, which is who we truly are. Well, we take advantage of these murmur moments. When something comes along that's a triggering experience that really gets your attention, we have some choices. We can react. We can shoot the messenger. Somebody comes along and says, well, I really don't like your hair or your dress or in my case, it was somebody didn't like my boat. I had an experience like that we talked about. That may seem to be a threat to your value, safety, and power. But the cool thing about it is that it opens up your brain for reprogram. So instead of reacting and shooting the messenger, trying to punish that person so they won't say that again, or maybe we can take it internally. Oh gosh, maybe I really am a horrible person. We have another choice. And that is when the brain is open for reprogramming by this aha moment, when we have one of these murmur moments, tune into who we truly are. Tune into, get that sense, that experience of, what am I like inside? What's the real Victoria? What's the sense of being 100% safe, valuable, powerful, that quiet level, the intellect shouts, the emotions scream, the intuition whispers, that quiet level, who am I? And tune into that, and that shifts our inner blueprint to, or at least towards, our true nature of being 100% safe, valuable, and powerful, and then we radiate that throughout life.
Mute. Okay, there we go. I love that. And hearing you say it again, I understand it differently than the last few times I've heard you say it. It's so wise. So, but what I think I hear you saying is that, in those moments when you're activated, and you can be positively activated too, but in those moments, it's probably really easy to find the miracle vibration, right? Because you're already there. But in those murmur moments where you're triggered by the hot stove or some reminder of the hot stove, something that makes you feel other than who and what you really are, it would be those moments of sort of powering down, quieting the mind, quieting the emotions, and getting back to the truth, to the intuition, to that inner knowing. Did I sum that up?
Yeah, excellent.
All right. So how do we do that? Because I know for me, it's just been a practiced art. 9 out of 10 times when I get triggered, because that's what that sounds like to me, I usually, let the trigger go for a few minutes and then realize it's not taking me in a direction I like, right? And I've learned to kind of quiet down, power down, sit with the feelings if they don't quiet down right away, and remember that even if I don't see it now, I know this isn't the truth of who and what I really am. And that's what works for me. But I know you have some really nice steps, right? Some really that I think might be really helpful for people. So what do you tell people in those moments when someone's criticizing your dress? And I'm really proud of this dress, so don't say anything bad about it because it will threaten my self-esteem. And that can sometimes feel like threatening your well-being, your sense of safety, right? What do you tell people in those moments? What are the steps? What helps us to get from the scream of the mind, the shout of the mind, the scream of the emotions, to the quiet of the intuition?
All right. Excellent. Thank you. Well, also, I see you have a red, white, and blue dress, so I'm very impressed for 4th of July. It's lovely.
I needed people to know that, so thank you.
So you can do that on a very spontaneous way. And one thing that really helps is to have specific steps. So I have a technique which I call 5 questions. And the reason I call it 5 questions is because it involves 5 questions. And the first question, let's say some experience comes along, someone's insulted your dress or whatever it is. Someone does or says something, or some event comes along that feels like a threat to your value, safety, and or power. So the first question to ask is, what happened? And I mean a very specific way of asking that question, what happened? I mean, what happened from an space alien robot perspective? Because what we might say is somebody's a jerk and they were being a jerk and they'd said something mean about my dress because they probably have been idiots their whole life and people laughed at them when they were in high school. Now they're taking it out on me. That may be my interpretation. But when I say a space alien robot, a space alien robot who comes down to Earth and doesn't know anything about intentions or motivations or emotions, just reports physically what happened. So what happened is somebody said something maybe that well, actually, I'll give you an example from my own life. I was sitting on a dock. I had just been out I'm in a boat right now, by the way, but I was sitting on a dock. I'd just been out on a boat with a woman that I was interested in at the time, was just getting to know. And we were sitting in the sun by the lake next to my boat, and I had another boat moored out on a buoy. And we were having a wonderful afternoon. And this guy came along in a kayak. He's paddling up in his kayak, and he said, "When are you going to get rid of that piece of shit boat out there? I can't stand looking at it." So to me, that was a murmur moment. It really seemed to threaten my value, my power, my safety. I mean, perhaps it threatened my relationship with this woman I was just getting to know. I mean, it could threaten my entire line of progeny throughout history if the woman decided I was no good because this guy didn't like my boat or whatever. On the emotional level, it seemed to be a threat. But if we look, question number 1, what happened? Man and a woman sitting on a dock. Another man came along in a kayak and asked the man on the dock when he was going to get rid of his boat, and compared that boat out there at the buoy to a turd. That is what actually happened. Now, even just stating it that way, it takes away some of the charge, because it's okay. That's the event that happened. Now, once we've established a space alien robot account of the event, which means, I mean, an objective account, not our interpretation, then the next three questions are, has this diminished my safety? Okay, am I less safe than I was 30 seconds ago when this guy came along and can comment on my book? Well, no. Am I less valuable? Has this influenced my value? Am I less valuable than I was 30 seconds ago before this guy came along? Well, obviously not. Am I less powerful in reality than I was 30 seconds ago before this guy made the comment? No. So if the answer to those three questions is no, it hasn't affected your value, safety, and power, then the key question here is, who am I? And in that case, we could answer, well, I'm a neuroscientist and I like blue shirts and I enjoy boats and I like to sing and play guitar and I do brain research. What I'm talking about, though, is a deeper level of who am I? Who am I beyond all the details about my life, beyond what shows up in my bio, beyond what I can say about myself, beyond what I do? Get a sense, an experiential sense of who am I? Who's the real Victoria Shaw? Who's the real Dr. Larry? That inner quietness, the intellect shouts, the emotions scream, the intuition whispers, beyond that subtle whisper, who does it feel like to be the real me? So now what have we done? We've taken an experience that would have been something we'd want to avoid. It was painful. And we've completely turned it on its head. Now that experience, when you have a triggering experience, you're going to start to have a little smile around the corners of your mouth because this is an opportunity. I can tune into who I truly am and shift my blueprint into expressing more and more of the real me, the real unbounded being that I am. So you can use those 5 questions, and you can do that. You can do it very, very quickly and spontaneously. You can go through the 5 questions. It helps to start with the questions so that you get used to doing that process, and it becomes faster and easier.
And it gets you out of the reaction, right? It gets the mind quiet. I know for me, ideally. Oh, can I finish this thought, Scott?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I just have a question, but go ahead.
Okay, cool. Because I know for me, like when I get triggered, because apparently it does still happen in my ever so human life. And I love what you said about this. You start to be excited about it because you recognize, wow, everything in life is an opportunity, to grow. And that's an exciting thing. For me, when I get triggered by anything, anyone, the quicker I can get present, the better. I don't have steps, but I'm intrigued by yours, so I will be playing with them. But what usually tunes in for me is in those moments of quiet, like as soon as I can get the mind and the emotions to calm down, and I have, a few ways that I do that for myself, the intuition kicks in. And that's the important thing, because it tells me, okay, I'm safe. It also tells me how to respond to the situation. And I would say, even if it is a situation, I think a lot of times when it's a real emergency situation, right? Because most of these things aren't. Most of these things are, you feel like your sense of safety is at risk or your sense of worth is at risk, but it's just not the case. But I feel even in those moments when it feels like a big thing, the same thing applies, right? And I think a lot of times when we're in an emergency, boom, everything kicks in, and you don't, the mind, the brain is made to respond to that situation, and your instinct and your intuition just comes online naturally. But again, for me, the crux of it is when the mind quiets down, the emotions quiet down, and the soul speaks. So
yeah.
And I just think it's beautiful the way that you explain that.
Thank you. Yes. And now, if the answer to those questions of value, power, safety, if the building is on fire, it really is a threat to my safety. And it's not the time to tune in, and it's the time to hit the
run
and respond appropriately. And again, being clear about what just happened and being clear about, if it is a threat, what the threat is, then it focuses your awareness. Okay, well, this is not the time to tune in. This is the time to to escape the fire or whatever it is, or if someone needs help to help the person or whatever else. The answers to those three questions, what happened, and then the value, power, safety questions, the answer usually is no, but sometimes it's yes, and in that case we act accordingly. And Scott had something.
I do. So first of all, this is great. Thank you. And yeah, the space alien, what I always say is, what would a camera see? What would a video camera record? Because a video camera is objective and not subjective. But my question for you is, I understand the 5 questions and how that gets us, it helps us with nervous system regulation and helps us to get out of fight or flight.
Okay.
What I want to know now is, okay, we've had that, we've had the pattern disrupt, we've had an event that's shaken us, we've gotten out of nervous system regulation, and we've got that handled. How do we take that moment and do the expansion part?
Okay. Well, the expansion part involves allowing the awareness to settle down to a quiet level. Again, the intellect shouts, the emotions scream, the intuition whispers, allowing the awareness to go inward to quieter levels, experience who we truly are, and we reach, or at least approach, that unbounded field of consciousness that is our essential nature. And I'd like to, relevant to this question, I'd like to talk a little bit about how we measured this phenomenon in the laboratory, my dad and I, because we've all had an experience like, I'd really like to hear from Sage, and just then the phone rings and it's Sage. But everyone on this in this group here has had an experience sort of like that. But we don't know the probability that would have happened anyway, so we can't say that was a scientific experiment. I think all of us recognize that when we're in that quiet level, when we're tuned into ourselves, we can have a faint impulse, and it like plucking a guitar string, it radiates out and it creates that in our lives. But no one proved that in the laboratory. We don't know the probability all these things would happen, these wonderful things would happen. So my dad and I decided to measure this using something where we do know the probability. We know the probability distribution of alpha particle emission by plutonium. And plutonium is one of the major ingredients of an atomic bomb. My dad was one of the guys who invented the atomic bomb. And so we decided to take some plutonium and see if we could shift the probability of that distribution, because it's something we can measure very precisely, and we know exactly what the predicted result is without human consciousness entering the scene. So we can measure what impact human consciousness has on this quantum mechanical process. Now, what we discovered is that we could shift the probability distribution of that quantum mechanical event to an extremely highly statistically significant degree, off the charts in the statistics books. Now, what does that mean? Well, the whole universe is quantum particle wave phenomenon. And few people that I know get up in the morning and say to themselves, gee, I'd really like to shift the probability distribution of alpha particle emission by plutonium today. However, what we do wake up in the morning and say, I'd like to have a spectacularly successful life's work. I'd like to make a difference in the world. I'd like to have wonderful relationships. I'd like to live in a nice place. There are all kinds of highly improbable things that we'd like to create. If we can create one highly improbable event, we can create others, because it's the same mechanics. And to get a handle on what is possible, I'd like to talk about a conversation I had early on in this research with my dad. I was sitting in a restaurant with my dad, Professor George Farwell, physicist. And I said, hey, Dad, anything is possible. And he said, yes, son, any imaginable configuration, quantum particle wave phenomena is possible. Some are probable, some are improbable, some are extremely improbable, but anything is possible. And I said, okay, so it's possible that all the elementary particles that make up my life, my body and yours, and enough air to breathe, we'll move to the tunnel to the other side of the moon, and we'll carry on this conversation there. And tunneling is a known phenomenon in quantum mechanics. It's you can measure it. It's known. It's been shown in the laboratory. And he said, yeah, you're right. And in fact, and he got out a paper napkin, and he wrote down a formula, and he calculated the approximate probability that that would happen. It was very low. It didn't happen. But the point of that is this. This is a message for everybody out there who wants to know something scientific that's going to be relevant to your highest dreams and aspirations. You have dreams and aspirations and desires that are spectacularly improbable and that a lot of people are going to tell you are impossible. Well, what we showed in the scientific laboratory is that anything is possible. You can create highly improbable events. Even something as improbable as flying to the other side of the moon is actually possible. From that level of the conscious unified field, anything is possible. And so frankly, the people who say that your highest dreams and aspirations are not possible are scientifically incorrect.
I love that. So just building on when we've had the event, we do the 5 questions, we come back to center. Is it that we're in a expanded window of opportunity for manifesting a miracle because we have successfully managed our own nervous system in the face of a pattern disrupt?
Yes, and yes. And there are a number of factors that are involved. Now, a lot of people talking about manifestation talk about focusing hard and trying hard and pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing. Now, that actually is going to take you in the opposite direction from this quiet impulse, this quiet level of the conscious unified field. So we reach this state of unboundedness by letting go, not by holding on. I mean, in that first experience where I was drowning, I let go of everything and got down to that experience. So there are several different factors. One of them is it comes as a process of quieting down, not of becoming more active, not of trying harder. And there are several factors which will influence the degree to which our inner vision is created in the world. One of them is integration and harmony within ourselves. Very often, if we think we want something and it's not happening, very often different aspects of ourselves are pulling in different directions. So I may think, okay, this is the direction I want to go, but on the level of the mind, the intellect, but the heart's pulling in a different direction. Or maybe there's a quiet intuitive sense that maybe this really isn't quite the right thing for me. So into yourself and experiencing a state of harmony where you're aware of what your intellect is saying, you're aware of what your emotions are saying, you're aware of your intuition, and you have a harmony and congruence among all of those aspects of yourself. That gives you a unified phenomenon to create a resonance that's going to be unified. It's not going to be pulling in different directions. So integration and harmony is important. Another thing that's important is depth of experience. If you're simply on the surface level, the power of the awareness is not so great as if you've allowed the mind to quiet down, the awareness to settle to that state of pure consciousness. Another important aspect is clarity of vision. Now, clarity of vision is not specificity of result. For example, let's say, well, I really want to have $1 million. Well, focusing on $1 million. Well, let's say we get the $1 million, but you get it by robbing a bank, and then you spend the rest of your life in prison. You got $1 million. You got that thing thought you were desiring, but not really the experience. So often we think, okay, I really want that thing out there, but what we actually desire is an experience. Life is an experience. Life isn't an event. Life is an experience. So rather than focusing on clarity of vision means clarity of the experience. I mean, why do we want $1 million? So we can make a big difference in the world. So we can donate to things we care about. So we can help people that we care about. So we can live a delightful life. All of those things. What's the experience that we clarify in our awareness? Not the external thing that we hope is going to bring us that experience. Another important aspect is effortlessness, because the harder we try, the more we pull ourselves away from this state of settled consciousness. And the final factor is support of nature. My first thought when this guy came by in the kayak and insulted my boat was that you have these boat fenders. They're these big rubber things that keep the boat from hitting the dock too hard when you're docking your boat. I thought I could take one of these boat fenders, I could throw it at this guy and knock him out of his kayak into the water. Clearly he deserves it. Now that thought really wasn't totally in tune with myself or totally in tune with nature. When we experience our desires and aspirations at a quieter level, they're more in tune with yourself. They're more in tune with nature. You may have some impulse on the surface, but as you experience this when you're in tune with yourself, when you're at this quiet, intuitive level, you're thinking in terms of harmony. You're not thinking in terms of something that's going to violate laws of nature or violate other people. So support of nature requires attuning to that quiet level within yourself, which is in tune with nature. And at that level, people say, well, am I tuning into my truest desire, or am I tuning into nature's desire? Well, if at the most fundamental level, those are one and the same thing. So on that level of experience, you gain support of nature. So all of those factors enter into it. And the higher the level of consciousness, the greater the miracle you can produce. For example, I want an apple. So I go to my job, I work for a while, I make some money, I jump in my car, I drive down to the store. This store doesn't usually carry apples, and it's not apple season, but lo and behold, there's an apple there. I get an apple. I wouldn't really call it a miracle, but it's a somewhat improbable event. Now, if you're more in tune with the conscious unified field, you have that faint impulse, I'd like an apple, and knock comes on the door, and your friend comes in and says, hey, I happen to have a bag of apples, have an apple. More fully attuned to the conscious unified field, you're out in your backyard, have that faint impulse, would like an apple, and the apple truck drives by, hits a bump, and apple bounces out on the table. Fully attuned to the conscious unified field, you can simply have that impulse apple and all the quantum particle wave phenomena, improbable though it is, that form an apple. You get an apple. And that's on the level of the walking on water and water to wine level. But potentially anything is possible. It depends on our level of consciousness, and we apply our level of consciousness according to those 5 principles I just described. And Victoria, looks like you have something delightful to say.
Victoria always is like so geeked out about all of this. It's my understanding too, when we're in what my teacher calls the energy realm or the other side, right? That we do have that instant, you want an apple appears, right? Here on earth, usually we do not have instant manifestation. That's according to my guides, that's actually part of the fun. According to my human self, sometimes it's fun, sometimes it's not. But I was just thinking about this. I've been thinking about this throughout because, before I learned about conscious creation and manifestation, all this good stuff, and I was just living my life like a muggle, I did have this realization, this understanding that a lot of the big things that I wanted in my life, and I can look back, some of them came really fast, and those were always things that just fell in my lap that I wasn't thinking I wanted, and then they just appeared. So that was the first thing I knew about my life, that good things always happened, but just spontaneously without me having to do anything. So that makes sense to me now. And then the other thing was these things that I wished for. I started to realize they would always come, but sometimes they would take a really long time. Like I lived in New York for 12 years and I wanted a particular house on a particular amount of land in a particular time, a particular town. And I got that. But it took a bunch of years. And even by the time I got that, I was already thinking like, well, I wanted that like 5, 6 years ago. Now I don't even know if I want it anymore, but look, I'm living here. So my question is like on Earth here, and I think you've already hit on it, but what are the factors, some of the factors that make the difference between those more instantaneous manifestations and, the ones that take a little while, or maybe they don't even come to fruition in these bodies, right? Because I've had things happen and we've talked about them, particularly with concerts, but other things too, right? Where, I'm sitting there, I'm like, I wish this would happen. And suddenly, boom, 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 things happen that ideally probably took lots of planning to happen. And, it's like an instant manifestation. Or one time I thought, gosh, I hate to wait until April to see this one artist play in New York. And 2 days later, I was invited to a small private concert the next week, where I was like, huge artist, plays big stadiums. And I was sitting, 2 feet away from her. So for me, a lot of that is oftentimes you're already in a good vibe. You're already excited about things. You already believe it can happen and you don't really care. Those are all the things that tend to. And sometimes too, I'm just feeling really good and then good things follow me. But I want to throw it back over to your framework. And I hope this question wasn't all over the place.
Well, yes, you mentioned a couple of things. You actually mentioned several of the things I described a few minutes ago about, for example, effortlessness. There are a lot of people teaching about manifestation that are really talking about effort, about you put this by your mirror and you really try hard to make that clear. One of the things you pointed out is you said I just don't care. It's interesting because you just don't care that's the letting go aspect, and then on another level we actually do care. We have that inner resonance, so it's sort of a paradox. That on the one hand, we have that impulse of, there's a desire. There's that faint impulse of, yes, this is something that I resonate with. And at the same time, we let go. Now, the mechanics of what happens in that phenomenon is we have, at the very quietest level of our being, we have some very faint impulse. But we want that impulse to be infinitely powerful. So if we really push on it, we're going to take it to a less deep level, and it's going to not become as powerful. If we have a very faint impulse and then we let go, what happens is the awareness slips into the conscious unified field spontaneously. The harder we try, the more that doesn't happen. But when we let go, awareness settles into the conscious unified field spontaneously. Then that moves nature, that moves the conscious unified field, and then that shows up in a very powerful way. So it really is a paradox, because there's not like a step by step, okay, you push this lever and then you push this lever and then you push down hard on this and it all happens. It happens at a very quiet level. And again, the intellect shouts, the emotion screams, the intuition whispered. At that quiet whisper level is the most powerful level we can create an impulse in creation.
Beautiful.
And Scott just came on.
Well, this has been we're already 15 minutes past when we were going to go to our music song break, but I couldn't stop because it's so fascinating. So good news, everybody. We are not done with Dr. Larry and Victoria. Victoria's going to be with us for the whole show. We are going to take some questions from any of you, but to just integrate all this wisdom, we are going to go to our beloved Omar Shar for the mid-show song.
Now we recognize we've been hypnotized. The sun is wearing off, and so now we rise with higher frequencies. There is no disguise. The truth of life itself is now realized. Love is reaching through the hearts of me and you. Our world is waking up to our different points of view, 'cause now we recognize we've been hypnotized. The spell is wearing off, and so now we rise with higher frequencies. There is no disguise. The truth of life itself is now realized. La da da da. So shake yourself free of the past. No longer do we walk in the dark. Let's show each other what we can do, and let our light shine right on through, and let the good of humanity stay, and let the dross simply fade away, and let the mother return to us all, so that love can have her way. Now we recognize we've been hypnotized. The spell is wearing off, and so now we rise with higher frequencies. There is no disguise. The truth of life itself is now realized. Ba-da-da-da. What we can do, and let our light shine right on through, and let the good of humanity stay, and let the dross simply fade away, and let the mother return to us all, so that love can have her way.
Outstanding. And I love Adora dancing with the American flag. That's how 250th July 4th of everybody. And a pair of brilliant songs, Omashar. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. And he will be back with one more tonight. So I'm going to bring Victoria and, of course, Dr. Larry back up again. Just to let everybody know, we're about halfway through the show now. We're going to do a little Q&A with Dr. Larry and Victoria. Then we've got Dr. Kat Lewis with us, and I can't wait to hear what she has to say about this conversation that we've been having. And then we're going to hear from Scarlett, who's also brilliant. Victoria, I'm going to let you lead with a question while I scan the chat to see if there's anything from our audience to ask.
All right, I got to think of a question.
Or a comment.
I can find. Let me find one from my intuition from the guides, because that's where I flow best. And here's my question to you that keeps coming up for me. And I think you've already answered it, but we'll see how it flows. You know, the name of the game of what I do is tapping into intuition, right? That quiet, the subtle impulse, the place where, in my mind, it's different than psychic experience, really. It's just that part where you're totally aligned. To me, intuition is like that spiritual GPS, the direct line to your soul. It's where, you know who you are, uh, viscerally, and everything flows from there, right? Is that connection with the unified field? Is that, Abraham Hicks would call that infinite intelligence, right? Is that the same thing?
Yes.
Okay.
All of the great spiritual teachers in every tradition throughout 10,000 years, way more than 10,000 years, actually, they've all been talking about the same experience. We may describe it in different words, different times and places, or different words, different societies, different metaphors, different allegories. But we're really all talking about that same experience. It's the experience, and we can talk about it as the experience of ourself, our highest self, our higher self, which is infinite. We can talk about it as the experience of the truth of nature. We can talk about it, the experience of the divine. It's the different words, but it's the same experience. So yes, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, what I love about talking to you, Dr. Larry, is that I can talk to my guides all day and tap in, and that's my happy place. But what I can't do is understand it in terms of quantum physics. So, no, it's beautiful. That's why I love picking this gentleman's brain, because it is such a beautiful bridge between the science way of looking at things and the spirit way of looking at things. And when those things align the way they do when I talk to you, that alone is a miracle. It's just such a beautiful gift to the world. So thank you.
Well, I think that something profound is going on in the world today. And there is a major uprising of consciousness taking place. We have been living in a scientific paradigm in which the material world was considered to be, if not the only thing, at least the most important thing, the most real thing. And what Science of Creating Miracles is about is the science of discovering and showing in the laboratory that this infinite field of pure consciousness, this field of the conscious unified field, which is who we truly are, is the most powerful thing in the universe. That's what really creates our lives. And my goal is to create a scientific revolution where we show all of this in the laboratory so that people learn from the time they're young through all of the channels in society that consciousness and higher consciousness and enlightenment is what life is really about. And when we have a world which is based on a materialist paradigm, where the material world is the ultimate reality, we end up with a world like the one we have today, where there are a lot of things that aren't so ideal. When people on the whole are learning, oh yeah, the truth is found within. That developing our inner consciousness is the way to create the world we desire, then we're going to have a very different world.
Amen.
We have some wonderful comments and some questions for you.
Yeah.
Ayada writes, is anybody else having the sense that we can work with this information and insight tonight to speed up the process of healing and uplifting our world at this fraught time? I had an incredible meditation today while walking through Chantal Cabrera's Innisfree Herb Farm near the Salish Sea in Vancouver Island, where I am. Very much aligned with this theme. And I'll get to the question in a moment for you, Doctor. Um, uh, there's several that came in from Rihanna, but Ayana also wrote, I'm so enjoying and appreciating this conversation tonight. Perfect timing for the 250th anniversary of the USA, as we have such an urgent need for evolutionary thinking. Absolutely. All right, now here is a combination of comments and questions from the great Rihanna Skywalker, who is been a guest on this show a few times, and she's an astrologer and a mystic that I really respect. She writes, finally paradox. Life is not all wonderful good experiences. I'm reminded of what you desire is desiring you. Are we creating or allowing creation to come to us? If all exists, what is the guiding force of our experience? As an astrologer and consciousness explorer with a few experiences beyond this realm, there is a soul script destined modes of experience that serve as greater unseen dynamic of creation, coming to understand that maybe we can co-create, receive the pulse, and create from source? Question mark. I would love to hear Dr. Larry's take on this angle. And what is a miracle?
All right. Well, I'll answer the second part. What is a miracle? So I can do that very briefly. It used to be thought that a miracle was something which was contrary to the laws of science, and yet somehow it happened. It contradicted the laws of science, but somehow it happened. Whereas in quantum mechanics, anything is possible. Remember the conversation with my dad, even tunneling to the other side of the moon. It's possible. Some things are probable, some things are improbable, some things are spectacularly improbable. So a miracle is simply a highly improbable event. Now, the question of, are we creating something that's happening, or is it pulling us to it? Is nature pulling us to there? Are we pushing or are we pulling? And the pushing and pulling is in the realm of duality, in the realm of unity. And from the point of view of the conscious unified field, we don't have to distinguish those two because they're both happening simultaneously. We create a hologram. We create a hologram together, and there really isn't a push, there isn't a pull, there is only a coming together. There is only a harmony that takes place. But when we're truly creating from the love of who we truly are, we are being created in the same way and at the same time. I wrote a paper which we published in the Physics Journal. It was a mathematics paper. It was called Filtered Noise Can Mimic Low-Dimensional Chaotic Attractors. And this had to do with fractal mathematics. Now, an attractor, a chaotic attractor, by the way, there are different layers of chaos. Chaos doesn't mean complete randomness. A low-dimensional chaotic attractor is actually a very orderly system. For example, you throw a tennis ball into the river just above Niagara Falls. It's so complex you can't really figure out exactly where it's going to go, but you know it's going to be between the sides of the river and between the top and the bottom of the river below. So that's like an attractor. It's an end state that draws us to it. And what we're doing essentially by attuning to the conscious unified field and setting up an impulse is creating low-dimensional chaotic attractors. We're creating a hologram that draws all of the forces nature to it. Or we could say nature is creating a hologram that draws us to it, and it's all the same. From the level of oneness, those are one and the same thing. So I love your perspective of the comment and question you made, because it really shows that, well, as you said, a paradox, that all of those when seen from the level of oneness, all of those perspectives become one.
Beautiful. All right. Well, it is time to take a look at how we can learn more about Dr. Larry and Victoria and something very special that they're putting together. So I'm going to first, and we're going to go visit a few websites. I'm putting these into the chat box as well, so you guys can kind of track it. But let's start by going to Dr. Larry's website. And here we go. For those of you watching on Facebook or YouTube, his website's simple. It's his name, Dr. Dr. Larry, Larry, Farwell. And he does fare well and go far well, doesn't he? So it's drlarryfarwell.com, the world's leading expert on the science of creating miracles. And yeah, there's some pretty amazing things here. Selected by Time Magazine, one of the top 100 innovators of the century. That's pretty impressive. So you can learn all about Dr. Larry by going to his website. My God, there he is with the former president of the United States. So he is a pretty amazing guy that we're blessed to have with us on this 4th of July broadcast. So drlarryfarwell.com is a great place to go to learn more. There's also this wonderful retreat site of, and Victoria's told me about it for quite a while. I haven't had a chance to go there yet, but I just might be going for this upcoming retreat. Victoria, tell us a little bit about Cactus Blossom Retreat.
Yeah, Cactus Blossom Retreat was a product of my intuition. And when I moved to California, I never thought I was going to have a retreat center. I didn't know retreats were a thing. I'd never done anything. I just had a passing thought that turned into Cactus Blossom Retreat. And it's a beautiful oasis in the mountains just outside of San Diego. And a lot of people come and do their retreats there. It has just a beautiful energy. It definitely called to me. And it's also a place that I get to go and play and do my own stuff sometimes too, which is what we're going to be doing in August. And I'm really excited to bring both of our perspectives together on the science and hopefully a little bit of the art as well to creating miracles. So it's going to be really fun, experiential, informative, individualized, because I'll be doing a lot of teaching and channeling as well. And I have to say, and I'm biased, but I swear it's objectively true. There's something about the magic of that spot. Just beautiful things happen there.
Yeah.
It's a really special place.
Here,
Uh,
here today, we've spoken about a lot of delightful things, and I really love being here with all of you and creating this hologram together, bringing all of our consciousness together. The retreat, it's going to be a 4-day retreat, as Victoria was just describing. We get to delve into the experience. Life is an experience, and we'll be talking about the knowledge behind it, but primarily it's an experiential retreat. We'll go into specific techniques to bring you the experiences we've been talking about today.
Beautiful. And I'm going to go to where on the website you can get all the details about it. You can get it by going to Cactus Blossom Retreat and then click on events. And so the Science of Creating Miracles is going to be a 4-day event at Cactus Blossom Retreat in August 20th to the 23rd. And boy, I mean, I would love to go to this with a lot of our
Cool.
Nobel Peace Prizes. Yeah, it's very, very appealing. And tell us a little bit more about kind of what people will experience who actually attend this retreat.
Larry, do you want to go? You want me to go?
Well, both, but I'll lead off if you'd like. Well, we've talked today about the conscious unified field, and we've talked about the process of creating from that level. We've talked about it, the intellect shouts, the emotion scream, the intuition whispers. I keep saying that because it's a fundamental reality of how our lives work. And what we'll do there out on the retreat is specific techniques to tune into that intuitive level, to be able to, for example, read other people, read situations, read the dynamics of nature, what's really going on the subtler levels. We'll tune in, we'll provide techniques into your to tuning into that quiet level from which you create your lives. So coming out of this, it's delightful being together for 4 days, but the primary value is that you come out of that with an enhanced, unfolded ability. I was going to say you've increased your ability. Actually, you're simply unfolding a natural ability that we all have, to resonate from the depth of our being and create our lives according to our subtlest and highest dreams.
And I loved what you said at the end, not about the retreat, but it speaks to the retreat. So bear with me. This idea, do we create our reality? Do we align? Do we put it out there? Do we align with it? And I think about those moments, right? Those moments of like instant, you have the nudge, you have the feeling, the thing appears, those moments of like profound alignment. That's what it feels like to me, where like in your bones, like it's happening to me, with me, for me, of me, it's just all aligned. I'm hoping that everyone will have at least one, if not many moments like that, where you can really know, what that feels like. And what I love about retreats, is that, it takes you out of your daily life. It takes you out of your daily life. And that can be a really good thing because it quiets the mind, it quiets the nervous system. It gives you a container with a lot of other amazing people that are all aligned with doing the same thing you are, which is not something all of us have in our everyday lives. And so it gives you like a really great space to sort of know what it feels like, right? Know what it feels to live in that alignment. Know what it feels to tap in, to tune, to be attuned. And then, we take that, we strengthen that, we build on that, and then we can go back out into the world, into our everyday lives and carry that forward. So even though I didn't know retreats were a thing until I got a retreat center and had to start leading retreats there because I owned it and I needed to know what they were, I have found them to be the most profound life-changing experiences, and to be a part of leading them, co-leading them, sometimes just attending them. It's a beautiful thing.
Mhm. Well, I'm intrigued about going for sure, and I see several of the people in our audience are. So, let's do that. Um, Dr. Larry, I hope you can stick around for a little bit because I'm really looking forward to you meeting our next presenter. She is, as I said before, one of the wisest women I know, and I know a lot of very amazing wise women. And Dia Therese in our audience wrote, Dr. Kat Lewis, it is titillating to know you will soon be contributing your unique perspective and heart-based wisdom. She is definitely someone, Dr. Kat has been a big influence on many of us, Reverend Jeffrey, so many of us that have taken her classes and studied with her. So welcome back to the Awakening World, Dr. Kat.
Thanks for having
And
me.
no,
Oh,
it's great to have you
oh,
here.
okay. I'm
And
not on
I'm
mute.
and I'm eager to hear your initial thoughts.
I love all of this as you're speaking my language. I'm familiar with Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. He was a big influencer in my spiritual development. And so, yeah, this is really fun to hear this. I would love to ask you a question about yogic flying.
Right?
So I'm not sure if everyone here understands what that is, so maybe you could describe what it is, but I'd be interested if you could tell us what's really happening at that level.
Sure. Well, you mentioned Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. I learned a lot from Maharishi. I first met him at Harvard when I was a student there. He came there to give a lecture, and I learned transcendental meditation from him. I spent years studying with him and dealt with the teacher training courses. I traveled with him, and I mentioned that I had been for a number of years. Well, I had that initial experience that I talked about, and then for the next 6 years, I imagined that I was becoming a tremendous expert in higher states of consciousness. I read all the books, I did all the courses, and I really thought I was an expert. And I didn't realize I was at the pre-kindergarten stage. And then I met Maharishi. I thought, oh my gosh, here's someone who's experiencing all of the things that I've been studying and that I thought I really knew about. Here's someone who actually has the full picture and, more importantly, the full experience. So I learned a tremendous amount from him. And in transcendental meditation, you experience thinking on beginning from the surface level. You experience the subtler and subtler and subtler levels, transcend the finest level of thinking, and you reach transcendental consciousness. That's why they call it transcendental meditation. You transcend the finest level of thinking, and you reach the conscious unified field. Now, there are specific formulas that you can practice on that level to produce particular effects in creation. And yogic flying is one of those. There are many others, but everything rises from the conscious unified field. And you produce a particular impulse at that level, and then you get the result on the surface. So yogic flying is simply a matter of producing the impulse that results in your body going up in the air. And one of the things that one of my recent research projects is studying and demonstrating in the scientific laboratory some of these abilities that are far beyond what most people think is possible. Another one is being blindfolded and being able to perceive things, to see things without using the eyes. I mean, after all, you can read a book with a blindfold on that you can't see through because the words in the book, the ink and the paper and all those come from the same conscious unified field that our awareness does. However, that's not well known, and it hasn't been studied much in the scientific laboratory. So what my goal is not only to measure the brainwaves of people who are experiencing these higher states of consciousness and doing some of these miraculous, supposedly impossible things, but measuring these things concretely in the scientific laboratory so we can publish in the scientific journal, not only, okay, we get really coherent brainwaves, but the physical phenomena that we're talking about are real and can be demonstrated.
So what do you think is happening to overcome that inertia or the gravity in order for the body to come up? So for those of you who don't know, yogic flying is a state where yogis get into that. They're sitting cross-legged and they have their hands folded in their lap. This is just what I've seen anyway. I haven't done it, but my meditation teacher, my transcendental meditation teacher, does do it. And so their legs are sometimes crossed like a pretzel so that they're really bound tight. And from that state, it's really difficult to lift your body up. So like Dr. Larry said, they go into this deep meditative state. They consciously align to the unified field, and then they introduce a thought. And what happens is the body pops up. The body pops up and it can kind of move a certain distance in the air and go forward, and then it keeps doing that. I guess I'm curious what is happening there that allows that to happen. And so I understand what you said. You're consciously attuning to the field, and then you introduce a thought. But what is that doing to the physical body? Or is it really doing anything to the physical body? Or are we just moving to another frame of reality?
Well, remember in the beginning, the very beginning here, I was talking about this desk. The desk looks like a solid object. Actually, it's not a solid object. It's a pattern of vibrations in the conscious unified field. So if you think, what is it doing to the physical body? Well, that physical body is a pattern of vibrations in the conscious unified field. When you're functioning from the level of the conscious unified field, you create a subtle resonance and you can shift those patterns. It's like right outside, I'm on my boat here, right outside here, I see the waves. Now, if you are the ocean, you can manifest the waves. If you're thinking only about one little wave, how do we modify this wave? It looks difficult. If you are the ocean, you are the conscious unified field that creates the whole universe. This is simply a pattern within your being. So it's not that we do something to the physical body. It's that what the physical body appears to us as a physical body is a pattern in the conscious unified field functioning from the level of the conscious unified field. We can shift that pattern. It's easy. It's not difficult.
And what does that feel like experientially? Have you done it?
Yes. But what that feels like is experientially, it feels like being in a very calm, very expanded, very blissful state and simply having the impulse, and then the impulse takes place.
Does the body feel weightless? Is that?
Well, yeah, that's the idea that you create a. No, okay. Another thing is that. Well, I'm not going to go into the relativity physics of this. I do in one of my books. I go into considerable detail, but gravity isn't really a force. Gravity is a shift in the time-space continuum, a shift in the structure of time and space. And if you are at the level of conscious unified field, the structure of time and space are something that arises from your own being. So you can create a shift in the structure of time and space. It's a lot easier to do than it is to describe.
Mm-hmm. And that would be instant manifestation or an instant miracle, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And the degree to which we can do that. Remember, we talked a little while about going to the store and buying an apple or bounces off the apple truck or appears in your hand. The parameter there that determines to what degree you can produce these effects is your level of consciousness. Full attunement to the conscious unified field, literally anything is possible. We're all attuned to the conscious unified field to some degree, and we all spontaneously create our lives out of that. The degree to which we can create miraculous outcomes is the degree to which we're tuned into who we truly are.
So then the probabilities are really observer dependent then.
Probabilities are observer dependent. Exactly. What quantum mechanics shows is that's a very brilliant statement. Thank you. What she said, everything in quantum mechanics happens according to probabilities. And there are lots of quantum mechanics experiments, which again you can read about in my books or in the quantum mechanical literature, where things happen according to the laws of probability. What my dad and I showed in the scientific laboratory with the conscious unified field experiment, is that among those infinite probabilities, we can choose which ones will arise. Before the observation, before consciousness enters the scene, we have just infinite probability distributions. Just there's no matter, there's no charge or momentum or mass or spin. There are just infinite probability distributions, abstract. When we make the observation, that collapses into an event. So what we as human beings do, we go around actually through our consciousness collapsing infinite probability distributions into the experience of our lives. And what we showed in the laboratory is that it's not only the laws of probability independent of us, it is we have a level of choice, depending on the level of our consciousness, as to which of those infinite probabilities can happen. If in the state of superposition, all probabilities, all possibilities are there at once. We go to that state on the level of our consciousness, we can make a choice as to which probabilities happen, even the really improbable ones.
And I like your analogy of like the guitar string. So it's basically when we go to that level of the field, we can then choose which guitar string we want to pluck.
Yeah.
Right. And then that will tune. We're basically, when we do that, we are tuning to that reality.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah. Thank
I
you.
want to read a comment that has a question within it from Grace Denise. And Grace, I'm going to kind of combine the different things that you said into one whole. She said that the intuition that came to me is a divine harmony and order underlies everything, but our limits of perception are what keep us in an interpretation reliant on the concept of chaos. Within this harmony is infinite possibility. So, is chaos indeed a function of us not yet seeing the truth of reality, which is in harmony?
Yes. Now, the word chaos, when it's commonly used, it often means complete disorder, complete disharmony. However, mathematically, chaos is a quantity that has different levels. Remember, I talked about the paper on chaos mathematics that I wrote on low-dimensional chaotic attractors. So there are levels of chaos. It doesn't mean levels of chaos makes it sound like levels of something that's totally disorderly. Actually, it's levels of chaos is the same as saying levels of orderliness. And the more attuned we are to this field of infinite order, infinite harmony, the conscious unified field, the more towards harmony rather than disorder, rather than more higher levels of chaos, we shift our awareness, and then we shift what we're creating from our awareness. Brilliant question.
Dr. Cat, anything you want to add to that?
No, but I do have another question, or I just wanted to follow up on what we were talking about before, if that's okay. Yeah.
Yes, go for it.
Yeah. So then if miracles or if probabilities are observer dependent, then miracles aren't really, they're only improbable or highly unlikely from a certain level of consciousness. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. It depends on your level of consciousness. From a high enough level of consciousness, anything is possible. You can choose even extremely outrageously improbable events. And I have observed in the laboratory events that are improbable at the level of 1 in many billion. Way off the charts.
I think the fact that we are even having this conversation is showing the direction in which humanity is progressing. That miracles, because the way I look at miracles is miracles are just things we haven't understood the physics of yet, but we are starting to understand the physics of it. And so we'll be able to understand how they happen, and therefore we'll be able to create them at will.
Yeah. Well, Arthur C. Clarke said any sufficiently developed technology is indistinguishable from magic. So it looks magical, it looks miraculous, only to the degree that we don't understand the mechanics of how it happens. And that's one of the things that my dad and I were doing in the conscious unified field experiment, was to show that there is a specific mechanics through which we can create things that look miraculous. And that is, everything takes place according to the laws of probability. Everything takes place in quantum mechanics, according to the laws of probability. In order to create a miracle, we simply have to create a highly improbable event. And that is simply from that field of all possibilities, choosing a possibility that's highly improbable. It's easier to do that stuff than to talk about it and understand it.
Mm-hmm. And since you've been doing this type of meditation and this type of work, how has your brain changed?
Well, first of all, being a neuroscientist is a very humbling experience, because we have 100 billion neurons, give or take, and some of them are connected to 100,000 other neurons. So it's a very complex system. And we're able to understand a little bit about it. This memory encoding related multifaceted encephalographic response, murmur, these murmur moments are something we can define mathematically. And so that is something that I've had a lot of aha experiences in my neuroscience career. And the way that my brain has changed that I've measured is that my brainwaves become more coherent. And the functioning of the brain becomes more, as my consciousness becomes more coherent, my function, my brain becomes more coherent. And that I've measured in the laboratory. And of course, I've measured not just myself, but I measured a lot of other people. As your awareness becomes more coherent, your brain also becomes more coherent. And you can mathematically define how orderly the functioning of the brain is, and it becomes more orderly.
And how does it change the way? So I know in meditation, you probably feel the difference in the way it feels when you're in a highly coherent state. But in your daily life, when you're not in meditation, do you feel like you keep that level of coherence?
Yes. And in fact, actually, that brings out a really important point. The goal here, since we incarnated here, the goal is to bring infinity into our relative life. Not just to sit in a field of infinity, but to bring the unbounded infinite consciousness, to bring the conscious unified field out into a world in our lives. So we may meditate, we go within, we experience this unbounded awareness. That allows the nervous system to settle down. Deep-rooted stresses in the nervous system are dissolved. We reflect more consciousness. Now, then we come out into our lives and we use that level of consciousness. We apply it, and it fades to a certain degree. Now, that on the surface looks, well, too bad. We were in this very unbounded state in meditation, and then we come out and we're more limited. But what's actually going on behind the scenes is something valuable, and that is that we're stabilizing that more unbounded awareness. It's like in the traditional way of dyeing a cloth. You dip the cloth in the dye, and then you fade it in the sun. When the sun, if you look at only the surface, oh, too bad, it's fading. But if you look at what's really happening, the dynamics, as it fades, it becomes more fast. So as this unbounded awareness fades and we get out into life and we're not completely in a state of complete harmony, as we apply that, it stabilizes and it strengthens the nervous system. And we've dissolved stresses in the nervous system. We get the nervous system used to functioning in this more stress-free style. So not only experiencing pure consciousness, unbounded awareness, but applying it in our lives are the steps that progress that takes place.
Yeah, I love that, because what the first thing I thought of when you said that was really for the one to experience itself, it does it through the many. And for us to bring more of that infinite consciousness, that light into the world, like if we want that as our world, it's up to us. We have to bring it forward.
Yeah. And I'd like to mention a little bit about something along these same lines, because it's something that people sometimes, that it helps if you understand it. And that is that there are disresonances in the nervous system, and we want to dissolve those. So as we approach the conscious unified field, anything that's out of tune with the conscious unified field, with that infinite harmony, starts to be dissolved. It's like we have dust on the floor of our room. We want to sweep it out the door. We sweep the dust out. But in that sweeping it out, we get dust up in our face. So it often will happen. People will have this high, beautiful, cosmic, enlightened, calm experience. And then it may feel like something very different from that happens. And people think, oh my God, I'm backsliding here. I was having this great cosmic experience, and now it feels like I've been run over by a truck. Well, that's actually a part of the process. As you sweep the dust out, you pick up some dust in your face. As you dissolve these disresonances, you'll feel them on the way out. If you had experience with fasting, you might feel really pure for a day or two, and then you feel like a mess. Well, it's because that purification has dissolved some of the toxins. Now the toxins are coming out, so you're experiencing the toxins on the way out. And a lot of the horrible stuff in the world today, I see as actually, not that I like the horrible stuff, but I see it as an aspect of an uprising of consciousness. We have a huge uprising of consciousness for the whole human race. Anything that's out of tune with that is being dissolved, and we're seeing some of the disresonances on their way out. So I think what's really happening is a dawning of an age of enlightenment, and we see some of the things that aren't in tune with that, but they're rising up, but they're rising up as they're being swept out.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think of it also too as like when you change the radio station, right? When you're in between channels, there's some static there. There's a lot of noise there. And so
Yeah.
that's what's happening. But I also look at it, right? If we want to, if we're trying to evolve just individually, we have to look at the things we've created, right?
Mhm.
And so,
Yeah.
right, so we're all doing this on an individual level, and humanity is doing it on a collective level too. So I look at it the same way, that all these things that we're seeing that can look like chaos is just part of the order that's being created.
Yeah. The caterpillar does not become a butterfly. It doesn't take on butterfly-like characteristics. The caterpillar becomes the green goo, and the green goo becomes a butterfly. So there is a transition taking place to a higher level of human life, and there's some chaos involved in that. And Scott apparently has something really delightful to add here.
I have a question from our beloved Omashar. What is the difference between brain, mind, and consciousness? And
Okay,
that's for both of you.
brilliant. You want to go ahead, or would you like me to?
No, go ahead. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Brain is the physical apparatus. It's neurons, and neurons fire. But you can go inside and you can look at all of the neurons. You can look at all the axon will fire. Then one neuron will fire. The electrochemical process will go down the axon. It'll enter the neurotransmitters. Will go across and affect the other neuron and the dendrite, and then this neuron may fire. You can look at all of those things. You won't see a mind. You won't see consciousness. You'll just see physical machinery. So the brain is simply the machinery that carries this out. Now, consciousness interfaces with the brain, similar to, for example, a radio. You can touch and feel and see all of the little parts of a radio, and it interfaces with radio waves that you can't see or touch or feel. So consciousness interfaces with the brain in a similar way. The brain, the primary purpose of the brain is to reflect consciousness. Now, the thoughts or thinking, the mind, is the mental consciousness is a screen on which all of our experience takes place, like the movie screen. The mind is the active mental activity, the organ of the active mental activity. The mind is what the individual thoughts that take place in the mind. So you have the machinery of the brain. You have the consciousness, which underlies all of our experiences and is the essence of all experiences. And you have the mental activity that takes place, the individual ripples of experience are the thoughts which take place on the level of the mind. And speaking of Omashar, your music is beautiful. Thank you so much. Speaking of creating a resonance and creating harmony in the environment, well, you've been an embodiment of that. So I really appreciate it.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. Hey, before you jump off, Dr. Larry, so they didn't actually say where the mind was. So there's the consciousness and the brain, and then the mind. Is the brain the mind, or is the mind electrical impulses which dance in the brain or consciousness? I missed that bit. Thank you.
Okay, no, the brain is not the mind. The mind is not the brain. It's like if you have this, I have in front of me a computer here. The computer, every single component of the computer you can see and touch and feel. That's like the brain. It's a physical thing. Now, the software that runs on the computer, you can have different software with the same physical setup. The software is the abstract activity that takes place within this hardware. Similarly, the brain is a physical machine, and the mind, the thinking process, is like the software that takes place within this physical machine. They're not the same thing. And consciousness is the ground of being on which all this takes place, and it's the fundamental of our experience. It's like the screen on which all of the sensory input and the thoughts and what the mind does functions.
So I guess the follow-up question, which I wasn't invited to ask, is how do we delete the mind to allow the interface, pure interface between brain and consciousness?
Well, okay, actually, we don't need to delete the mind. We transcend the mind. In other words, you experience thinking on a finer and finer, and Dr. Cat was talking about transcendental meditation. You experience a thought on a finer and finer level, and quieter and quieter. The intellect shouts, the emotions scream, the intuition whispers. You experience on a quieter and quieter and quieter and quieter. When the mind settles down completely, what's left is the screen. What's left is the pure consciousness. So you don't have to delete the mind. And there are a lot of people who are try to stop thinking. The mind is like a monkey. You got to stop it from moving. You don't have to do that at all. Simply you transcend. You can experience thinking on a quieter and quieter and quieter level. You let go of even that, and all that's left is consciousness.
So are not the programs that we received as children or wherever the software, and they're just kind of continually acting out? So are you suggesting that just by really quieting the mind, we won't activate the programs which make us do fight and flight and all that?
Yes, and also as you experience these quieter levels, the body settles down to a state of rest, and you dissolve deep-rooted stresses in the nervous system, which are interfering with our experience of a higher level of consciousness.
Okay, thank you. This is a deep one, and thank you.
I have a question for both of you. I've often heard on this show with different people that actually there is only consciousness, and we are, as receivers, we are actually bringing in the consciousness that already is. It's kind of a chicken or the egg question. Um, where do both of you stand on that way of seeing things?
Okay. Well, to get into a little more detail than we usually do, uh, there are 7 states of human consciousness. There's waking, and reality, our experience of the universe and of ourselves is different in different states of consciousness. Waking state, the usual waking state, most of us here are in that state right now. There is a deep sleep state, unconscious, not dreaming, and then there's dreaming state. Everyone experiences these 3. The 4th state of consciousness is transcendental consciousness. You experience this during transcendental meditation. There's some other techniques which get you to that experience. You experience thinking on a finer and finer level. You transcend the finest level of thinking. You reach pure consciousness, unbounded awareness, conscious unified field. Now, when you return to your activity of the daily life in waking, dreaming, and sleeping, you bring more of that consciousness with you. So there comes a time when you have that full unbounded awareness all of the time. Waking, dreaming, and sleeping come and go, and that infinite consciousness is there all the time. That's a state of enlightenment or nirvana or nitya samadhi, or it's the 5th state of consciousness. You can call it cosmic consciousness because the awareness is unbounded all the time. Initially, you only experience glimpses of that pure consciousness when nothing else is there. There comes a time, as this dual state of awareness, you have infinite awareness along with all of the activity of waking, dreaming, and sleeping. Once you're in that state of consciousness, we've gone from the surface to the depths to the finest level to the transcendent inwardly. You start to perceive the subtler levels of creation outside, which you previously perceived inside. You experience finer and finer levels and more beautiful levels of creation until you reach the finest level of creation on the level of perception outside, not just inside. And you become aware of the mechanics of the intelligence through which that initial creation begins. And there are subtler structures that you perceive, like they're celestial structures or celestial beings that have bodies on these subtler levels. And as you perceive subtler and subtler levels, you perceive subtler and subtler levels of structure of the universe and beings that inhabit those. And when you reach that finest level at the first impulse of creation, you become aware of the intelligence that creates that creation, and that's known as God consciousness. And which is the 6th state of consciousness. From that level, you begin to perceive, being in that level for some period of time, you begin to recognize that actually that never even happened. Actually, it's just the vibrations of the infinite. So there's nothing there but the infinite. So sometimes you'll see, well, there are these debates. Well, one says, well, there's infinity with outside, but then there's this material world outside. Or no, that's not it. It's just all one. Well, it depends on the level of consciousness. From the level of unity consciousness, 7 states of consciousness, there is only the infinite, and it appears to vibrate into the relative world. From the level of waking state of consciousness, there's only the relative world. We're not experiencing pure consciousness. So knowledge and experience are different depending on the level of consciousness. All of those are true depending on all of those are true descriptions of experience. So when we say the ultimate reality is oneness, yes, and you can experience that on the level of consciousness, or you can experience the different stages getting to that.
Dr. Kat, Victoria, what would you like to add or ask or share?
Yeah, the way I like to share exactly that, what you just said, is to help people understand it more, or just to add to their understanding, is, when we're in a dream at night, we think we're that dream self. We think we're the dream body. But we were that entire dream, right? The beings you saw, maybe your dog was in it, the objects you experienced, even the empty space that you experienced, all of that occurred inside your mind. And you took yourself to be the dream body, but you were never the dream body. You were the consciousness holding the dream. And the same is actually true for here. And what happens as we start to as the nervous system starts to relax and we start to experience ourselves more as that unbounded awareness, is that our inner senses awaken and we start experiencing all these different levels within us. We start to experience reality more as a dream. You start to experience waves of energy out here and within the physical body. You might be able to see colors that you normally wouldn't be able to see. So our senses change as our nervous system changes, and then we begin to experience more of what's actually here that our brain and our nervous system are filtering out for the primary reason because we don't even pay attention to it. We think empty space is empty, and so we don't pay attention to it. Right? We think we take ourselves to be the body and everything else is out there, but really our mind, I think of our mind is all of this. The body appears in the mind. The physical reality you are experiencing right now is also appearing inside your mind.
Yeah, thank you. Brilliant.
Beautifully said. I was getting tripped up, but not tripped up. And I think you already talked through it when I was raising my hand frantically. But, years ago, back in philosophy class, when, my mind and my channeling abilities opened up. So my guides, before I knew what they were called, and we were trying to solve the mind-body problem. And we were trying to solve it from this idea of materialism, right? That there is this material world and that consciousness needs to be, has to emerge from the brain. And how the heck is that going to happen? And my guides I used to do this thing where I would go to the place beyond words. Again, didn't know what it was called, just did it. And, get this information, bring it back and share. And thank God my professor thought it was cool. But what I got from this information, and this speaks, I think, to kind of the crux, part of the crux of Omashar's question, but I'm not sure, is this idea that consciousness is not an emergent property from the brain. Right? It's the other way around. It's all incorporated in that. And so I think it's an interesting question how the brain interacts, and is part of this simulation or whatever you want to call it. But it's the other way around, right?
Absolutely. And a fundamental misunderstanding of the materialist paradigm is that either consciousness doesn't really exist. It's nothing. It's just the material world. Or somehow consciousness emerges from matter. Whereas when we examine the table at the very beginning of this conversation, you go deep enough within the table, it's a pattern of vibrations. What's vibrating is consciousness, the conscious unified field. So matter emerges from consciousness, not the other way around. If you start out with the assumption that matter is the ultimate, the fundamental reality, you'll never be able to have something that makes any sense with respect to what consciousness is. And that's the way in which the materialist paradigm has it backwards. And that's why we need a scientific revolution to introduce the conscious unified field paradigm that has the correct understanding of where matter comes from and where consciousness comes from. So brilliant. Spot on, Victoria. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, this has been a fantastic conversation. And I am going to remind people of how you can get more of Victoria, more of Larry, Dr. Larry, more of Dr. Cat, starting with Dr. Cat. And it's easy to go to her website because it's her name, Dr. Gr. Cat, K-A-T, Lewis.com. And Dr. Cat, do you have a Sunday program that will be starting soon?
I do, actually. Actually, it's an advanced group that starts this Sunday. So you would have to have taken the previous courses to get into this group. But I start a new beginners group in 3 months in the fall.
Okay. And if people go to your website, then just sign up on your contact
Yes.
list and
Yes.
you'll stay in touch with them.
Yeah. Thank you, Scott. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I just want to one more time remind people that there's a very exciting retreat that tonight's show has got me really turned on to wanting to go to. The Science of Creating Miracles, what this whole show has been all about, taking place at Victoria Shaw's beautiful place August 20th to the 23rd. Again, that's down near San Diego, so it's in Southern California. And to learn more about it, go to cactusblossomretreat.com and click events, and that'll take you right to this page. We are going to hear by video from Scarlett, formerly known as Tammy Scarlett, who, like Dr. Cat, is one of the women I just really respect a lot. And I did a pre-record with her this afternoon. So we're going to play that video in a moment. But I do want to remind everybody that this week is the start of our new season. And so if you haven't registered for the Global Peace Tribe summer season, don't you want to come twice a week to shows like this? And if you can't make it on a Wednesday or a Saturday, you sign up, you register, you get the links to all of our recordings because we record all these. And this is a show I am absolutely going to watch again and again because it's going to take me some time to fully comprehend all that has been shared tonight. So if you haven't joined us yet, and that's primarily speaking to all the people watching on YouTube and Facebook, on all of our broadcast partners, go to globalpeacetribe.com. Globalpeacetribe.com. Just click join the new season, verify that you're a human, and it'll take you to where you register. It takes about 2 minutes to do it. You'll immediately get the Zoom room links to all of our shows. And it's important to support us so we can continue to bring you amazing people like this and beloved Omashar and this beautiful Global Peace Tribe community. Um, uh, I don't know if you'll be able to stick around, Dr. Larry or Victoria or Kat. I hope you can, because I certainly would love to get your feedback on Scarlett's, what Scarlett shared. If you can join us and stick around, great. If not, I understand it is the 4th of July. There are fireworks happening, there are parties, there's all sorts of fun stuff going on. So if you can't join us, I understand that as well. Um, uh, I want to thank all three of you, and you're all brilliant. I am honored to be sharing time with you. And for the rest of our Global Peace Tribe audience, we're going to hear from Scarlett, and she also has a wonderful invitation at the end of her program. And then we'll come back for one more song from Omashar, prayer time, and celebrating a couple of birthdays of our Global Peace Tribers. So there's still a lot about to happen. But here we go with Scarlett. Well, we are the awakening world, which means we're on the edge of evolution, evolving into this beautiful new, whatever you want to call it, fifth dimension, awakened world, evolved people. And one of my favorite evolutionary leaders is Scarlett. And of course, she's been on the show many times in different capacities. And tonight, we're going to talk to Scarlett about two things. We're going to ask her about tonight's topic, the science of creating miracles, because she certainly has created some amazing miracles in her life. And then, of course, we're going to learn about an amazing event that I'm looking forward to attending called The Edge of Evolution. So welcome back to the awakening world, Scarlett.
Oh, thank you so much, Scott. Thank you for having me here. It's an honor, and I'm just delighted to be back in this space. And it also is this time of year where so many new things are unfolding so rapidly. So it's an exciting time to be gathering, and it's an important time to be talking about these subjects that we are discussing today as well.
And it's Independence Day, and there's no greater form of independence than really feeling comfortable and free to manifest. And I think that one of the things that I love learning from you, and I've learned so much from you, from the Edge of Evolution group that I've been attending for what, 6 months now, 9 months? How long have you been doing it? You are always helping us to expand our consciousness, expand our awareness. And that expansiveness is true freedom. That is true independence. So thank you. I've learned a lot from you and through you. And
Thank you for being there.
My pleasure. So, what are some of your tips, tools, and practices for manifesting, for creating miracles in your life?
Ooh, okay. Tips and tools for manifesting. I used to focus a lot on manifesting like it was something to do. And I think I had a shift a couple of years ago, maybe a few years ago, that started to change my perspective a little bit, that it was less about me doing, or even me like, getting to a frequency or holding faith or some, one of those things, and more about really resting into what was already true in relationship with all things, the relationship of all things that is always existing at all times in all directions. And when I started to kind of surrender myself to that greater contextual reality and the aliveness of it, it started to shift my capacity to allow, I guess, the field itself, the unified field, the all that is, to participate in my livingness in more intricate and more specific and more potent ways. And so I remember, I guess I can talk about a time very specifically that I remember having an experience where I watched kind of this spot in my body, my physical body, figuratively open up, and I saw this like capsule, like a capsule area. And I imagined that something that was potentially possible out in the, what we would call manifest reality was, could be incubated there. And I imagined that I invited this thing to be incubated in this little capsule. And something said to me, like this little like angelic whisper, like, it's not that much different than being pregnant. And because I had at that time had a daughter, and I remember thinking in that moment, yeah, that's funny, because if somebody came up to me when I was pregnant and said, yeah, whatever, that's not real. Like, there's no baby in there. You're not gonna have a baby. Like, sorry, like, or that's just crazy. Like, woo, you think there's a life growing in there? Yeah, whatever. Anybody could say or think anything, and it couldn't remotely negate that it was happening or how I was going about tending to its becoming. And so when I paralleled that and I thought about this like encapsulated space inside of me where I was like, perhaps housing some potential, I then wanted to do that even more so. And it shifted in my mind from being faith, what I used to think about as faith, to get myself on board with an idea or tune into a frequency or whatever, so that I could like maybe get there or maybe match it. It was not any doing. It was like, no, allow the thing that's already feels true, like my highest delight and desire inside, and that which could also already be true outside, to have a home in the 3D, in this interdimensional being, so that if it can rest in me and incubate in me, and I can say to everything else around me, I don't care what you think. 7.999 billion people could look at me and be like, well, that's not true. That's not going to happen. Like, doesn't matter. It's alive in me. I'm holding it. I'm incubating it. It's doing its thing. Like, this is my whole thing I'm doing right now is growing this in me, and then allowing it to come through in its expression. Because that was the other piece that I saw, is like, when you have a baby, you didn't actually get to pick like what, how it was all woven together. You were the housing mechanism to bring it through. And so I'm like, oh, okay, embodied faith in that moment took on this whole other life to me. And I started to see things as much more participatory, and that the things that could be brought into manifest reality, my contribution to that was embodiment, but also my contribution to that was tapping into my highest delight, really being able to get to that thread that's like, what do I love? What do I desire? When I sit on the edge of possibility and I wonder, what could things be like? What do I hope? Bringing definition to that is part of how I contribute to this all around me, because all the waveforms, they're dancing in all directions at one time. They need some specificity to be able to land and come through. So when I tap into my highest delight, the waveforms get to play through me when I've landed in my specificity of that moment of highest delight. And now that contribution is like, oh, I found that and I'm doing my embodiment work. Come on and come play. And then there we have some manifest reality. So,
Charlotte, I love that. I really got that. That's beautiful. I'm going to actually make a little segment out of that for everybody because that's a great tool. Really imagining that whatever it is we are visioning, longing for, imagining that we're pregnant with it and just letting it gestate inside of us. I love that.
mm,
It's also a very part of my interpretation of what I heard is that you shifted from a more masculine way of make it happen, penetrate into more of the divine feminine of receptive, receive it and nurture it and let it grow inside of me, which is a much more feminine way of creating as opposed to maybe the old school, I call it the old Tony Robbins, make it happen way,
it's
which is
okay to make
wonderful.
things happen.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
wonderful. It's wonderful. But as you're describing your next step of evolution, I think that's beautiful.
I think that in this side of things, on this side of veil, as it were, there are some things for us to like go do. But when we do the go do, we're working with the things that have already come down all the way to this dimension. And so it's like, now what is that work to do? Now what is the stuff that needs to be carried out? I'm going to sit here and I'm going to cut up the apple in these little pieces and squeeze lemon juice on it and give it to my daughter because in this kind of version of reality, that's how I can do the fullness of the thing that's left to do right here. But not everything is that. And so when we're just talking about our participation with the unified field itself or with the all that is, like there's an awful lot there that we get to tap into when we allow ourselves to move into the feminine, so that all those expressions can be exponential. And then when we come back down here and we want to do the very maybe more tedious or more masculine things, we actually have a lot more to work with.
Right. That's beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, just before we came on, you also gave a wonderful tool, which I'd love for you to share. Do you remember what you were sharing beforehand?
Which one?
It was what led into into creating miracles. Oh my God.
I don't remember.
Oh my God. And it was so brilliant. And that's why I said, okay, we remembered it. She
Okay,
remembered
so
it. Charlotte remembered it.
it took a second. Yeah, so the thing we were talking about just before was like a vision that I had in the middle of my lessons. I was really learning about money, actually, abundance and money, and how there's this big energetic shift happening around that on our planet right now. And in the vision, I saw a cup, like each of us as a vessel in a cup. And I saw that in nature, it actually is not a natural, nature is abundant. Like I always say, we are all abundance on a planet of all abundance and a cosmos of all abundance, and anything that's reflecting less than that back to us is incomplete. However, it is not a natural inclination to take an abundant outpouring and pour it into a leaky vessel. And I watched this in all these, like, play out in all these natural environments, and I was like, that is really true. Like, there's symbiosis occurs naturally and reciprocity occurs naturally. But really, if I was walking around with a container at a party and I wanted to like fill everybody's glass, and I saw that someone's glass had a hole in the bottom of it, the natural tendency would be to pull back and go like, oh, did you know that that's like leaking from the bottle? As much as I would want the person to have a full glass, the whole goal would be stop the glass from leaking, not fill the glass. And so in terms of our own capacity to be those that our cup runneth over and to be the perpetuators of abundance as the vessels that we came to on the planet, how much is it our work first to learn how to energetically at all these layers of being not be the leaky vessel, and then be able to answer, what does that mean? Because there's a lot of connotation to it in our society around, like, if I hold goodness, or if I hold something that's come to me, if I learn how to receive and then I hold something that's come to me, is that bad, negative, greedy? Where's the line between that and hoarding or whatever, which it might be obvious to some people, but there's a lot to work through in that says, how do we, each and every one of us, do our work about wherever we're being leaky in our energetics, so that we can be an appropriate vessel for the all abundance that we are and that wants to flow through us.
Such great wisdom. Thank you. And thanks for remembering that and sharing it. Thank you.
Happy to.
Well, there's an opportunity for us to get a lot more of Scarlett and some of her favorite colleagues, and that is this upcoming Edge of Evolution event. Scarlett, tell us about what's happening in August.
Yeah, so in August, I'm really excited to bring this to this space, so the Global Peace Tribe. I have been trickling out there to some friends and talking about it really quietly, secretively on social media, saying there's an event, like contact me if you want to know about it. But it's happening at 1440 Multiversity in August 13th through 16th of this year. And it is happening in it. I want to caveat it with something, because it didn't happen overnight. It's not like people planned an event and then all of a sudden, here we go, we popped up an event, come to it. This was done through sitting in meditation over like the course of a year, and having 1440 come up as a space in that, a bunch of people going to visit, meeting with the tree. There's a mother tree there that's over 1,000 years old. I didn't even know during any of that time that tree had been calibrated with what's his name, Falco at Damanhur, and a whole group of people that were being in service to the trees, as a grouping of what ended up being 30 million trees, coming kind of back into alignment for collaboration. I don't know how else to say it, collaboration during this time, like for this time that we're going through right now. And that happened 14 years ago. This August. And then 7 years ago, this August, there was another event that happened there at 1440, also with the trees, that had to do with different kinds of, a different edge of evolution at that time. Nassim Harriman was there, a bunch of people, they did art crystals in the water, a bunch of the scientists in different groups in the consciousness space had gathered. And that happened there at that time. And so now the running joke is that the trees are actually the one who are keeping the schedule, because they've been calling humans there every 7 years. Like, this is what we're doing. And we didn't set the dates either. 1440, when we called them and asked about what we could do during the year of 2026, they offered us this set of dates. It happens to also be over the eclipse window. And so here we are in service, literally. But if you have been feeling like maybe humanity is at this cusp of the edge of evolution right now, things are changing a lot, and that we have a role in that, we have a part to play, and we want to both explore what it is that's available to us as our capacities increase, our perception abilities increase, and we also want to increase our own abilities and capacities to be present, fully present, to do field coherence, to tend the fields, that all of this vast capacity building is going to happen within, then Edge of Evolution is probably exactly for you. And so I'll screen share for a second to show a little bit about the event. Oh, how do I do that here? Give me a second. I have to be able to do it with two screens. Go ahead, Scott. Sorry.
Yeah, no, just have it up on your desktop and then go to screen share and you'll be good.
Here we go. All right, so this is it. Edge of Evolution, an immersive journey in the Redwoods. Time to pause. So presence is going to go before us here at this event. Coherence and tending the field of coherence will go before us as well. This isn't just about like running out and like spoon bending and like doing blindfolded sight and all those things, although you very well may. There's people that lead those things there. But it really is about doing the deeper weaving of what's going to help our species capacity to expand in right relationship at this time. So you can see here, why now, why this, why us? This is a moment that's asking us to stabilize, in this expansion.
And one of the things that I picked up in talking with you and Teresa Collins is it's not so much about this speaker at 1 o'clock and the speaker at 4 o'clock, but much more of everybody who's there participating, connecting, conversing. It's a different
Yes.
structure than normal.
That's so correct. Yeah, we say no stages on stages. So this is like just all of us together. Now there's going to be people helping with facilitation, but even with that, like the main stage and the main gathering hall is being turned into an altar, and the configurations of seating is all going to be circular. And anybody who's helping, which there's never just going to be one person, would be interspersed with people around the space. And then there will be a choose your own adventure arc. So for that part of us that is feeling like giddy, like little kids about exploring our own capacities at the edge of evolution and what that might mean, then there are different little things we can break off and go explore. And each person's journey will be their own, certainly not separate from the trees, because the trees will be part of that. The little Damen machines are going to be there so that the trees can sing while people walk by, and they'll change their tune, according to who's there. And so, yeah, the choose your own adventures. Here's some of the people that are coming. Each person who's coming is also participating and contributing to the container, right? So everybody's bringing something that is their own weaving. These are some of our community leaders in different spaces, and the invitations have been extended to them to invite their communities as well. And of course, that beautiful, beautiful redwood forest that we see there.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And I
The
saw
Twin Cities
a lot of our favorite people, Global Peace Tribe wise, Julie Kroll, Teresa Collins, Marshall Efforts, who's been on recently. So just a
Yeah.
lot of really wonderful souls will be there.
Yeah, and some gorgeous, music and art curation. The things that are coming in service to this are just so beautiful. It is that outpouring. It is all over out of this spirit of abundance and really bringing who we are to this moment fully, and doing that in right relationship and doing that in a new order of sequencing. I mean, nothing's right up next to each other on the schedule. Everything is spaced 30 minutes apart. I've
Mhm.
never seen a schedule like that before. That is like, you go to something and then there's a 30-minute gap. It's so that there can be this spaciousness, so that we learn how to find our breath and pause and stillness, so that all the things that are waiting to happen in the subtle realm have room to do that, to come to life. So we have put together special for Global Peace Tribe and Awakening World, a special contribution code to contribute $444 towards the tickets of anyone who comes through this group. And I have sent that all over your way, Scott, so we can make that available to everybody today. And also, we've set up the pricing in a way. 1440 is not a cheap place to be. It's all inclusive. It's a state-of-the-art facility. It's a fancy schmancy place to be, but they contributed to us, so we were able to bring a large amount off of the pricing. And also, we set it up on a very wide range of pricing scales. So there's contributions that can be made all the way up to $8,800 for a suite if somebody is like in that sponsor capacity, and that helps to offset the pricing of tickets in the scholarship range, and then all the way down to scholarship tickets that come in at $24.44 for the 4 days. And so all of that is online, and you can click on whatever works best for you. Reach out to us if you have any questions or if you are in need of any other assistance in any way, and we are really happy to help and accommodate. If you know that you're supposed to be there, let us know. We want to hold this field in coherence, and we want to be with these trees with you.
Beautiful. You said it quickly, but for people who don't know what you meant by the Damen her ability to hear from the trees, can you just describe what that is? Because some people might not
Oh
know.
yeah. I mean, yeah, in general, I feel like when I was little, I used to have this hope, this wish. I don't know where it came from, but I would always be like, I wish I had a grandmother who would go out to take me out to like a field and make me like crouch down with her. And she'd wait till like a little rabbit hopped across and she'd say something like, consider the rabbit. Like this is what you can learn from the rabbit. The rabbit teaches us this, this, and that. I remember yearning for this. I'm like, I wish that I had that in my life. And I think what I learned from working with many Native American and First Nations communities in my later years was that everything is medicine and everything is our teacher. And so when we do decide that we're just going to change our listening ever so slightly and lean in to what the rabbit might be saying or what the tree might be saying, we do learn. There is something to be listened to there. So it isn't that we need to, imagine that the trees grow mouths and begin talking, although there's nothing wrong with that either, if that's where your imagination goes. But it is more that the trees they're always playing their part in this greater sphere of things. And we couldn't possibly know what the whole spectrum of that role is, but they do. And so if we tune in and align a little and allow them to share with us by not because they overtly are speaking in a human way and we're anthropomorphizing them, but because our listening has deepened and become sensitive enough to receive the truth of their essence and what they're doing and being the whole time. Like that is really listening to the trees. That's really being a responsible steward of the fact that we're interdimensional beings, because it's putting us in a position to then take into consideration the roles of all the stakeholders that are in this environment with us. So we get to do that in a place where there's a very, very ancient tree who holds the codes of all those years where it stood. That goes way beyond what a tree might hold who's been there, 60 years or even 100 years. It's seen the rise and fall of different eras of what humans have brought, of how oceans have changed. I don't know, how species have come and gone. I don't know what's happened during that time. But for us to be able to be with that level of what that tree stood present for while it was going through its process is a big deal. It feels like a big deal to me. And when Damanhur did the calibration, it was essentially Falco being in service to the greater connectedness of all things by paying attention to what the role of the trees might be in the grander scheme. And there being maybe perhaps you could call it a certain preparedness of the trees in that area on the earth. I mean, I don't know if you guys have ever noticed this, but when you go to a place, places can feel different. Places can hold energetics differently. Like if I go to this city or this, other city or this place in the middle of nowhere or this particular hill or something, there can be things that just feel different about it because land has its own dynamics for what it stands for, perhaps its role that it does, but certainly its energy. So that's what we're looking at here is this very special redwood forest that has been up to something wonderful for a very long time. And people all over the world, because Damanhur was in Italy, by the way, people all over the world were connecting with it on purpose for this purpose, which is that for such a time as this, we could be stewards of consciousness and this change that is upon us for the best and highest good.
We could have a whole conversation about Damanhur because it is quite an extraordinary talk about edge of evolution. Damanhur is very much on the edge of evolution. And
oh yeah.
And for anyone who doesn't know, we won't go into a lot, but there are even people who claim that they've experienced time travel while at Damanhur. It's definitely a very extraordinary community where fascinating and interesting things are happening. And the Redwood Forest in August is going to be where I look forward to being with you, Scarlett, and hopefully many of our Global Peace Tribers can join us. Happy Independence Day. I know you have a daughter who's waiting for you right now. So thank her and your little dog for letting me have some time with you. And thank you for these wonderful tools and practices. And I look forward to my next connection with you.
Oh, me too, Scott. Thank you so much. And blessings to everybody who's here.
Take care. Unmute. Good to see Victoria and Dr. Larry still with us. I think Kat's off watching fireworks. So I'll go right into Victoria and Dr. Larry. What are your thoughts about what you heard from Scarlett about her tools and practices?
Go ahead.
It was beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful. And the part that resonated, I mean, so much of what she said. And I wrote down in the chat when she was talking about, I crumpled it up, but the idea of, the sort of forcing, pushing versus receiving, when you're totally aligned, it's the same. It's the same. I think that's what Dr. Larry was talking about, right? And it's just a different way of understanding things. But, when that action is aligned, it's not about making something happen, and it's not even about letting something happen. It's the same thing at the same time. And so it just made me think about that aspect. And that's really what it feels like when things are really, really aligned. It feels like flow, right? So I loved that.
Yeah, I noticed you also really lit up when she talked about the energy of a space.
It's my favorite thing. I love to try. It's hard to explain to people that my favorite thing to do when I travel is walk around. Is just walk around and feel where I'm at. Like sometimes I will see things so I can tell people I've been there. But my favorite thing to do when I'm exploring a new area is just to walk around and feel the energy, And so I loved that she said that. And our world is such a beautiful place to explore, and different places, different, both natural and non-natural settings. They have their own stories. They have their own energy. They have their own history. I mean, it's beautiful. And I love my trees as well. Trees and rocks. I talk to rocks. Rocks are just also my bestest friends, and bodies of water.
Wow.
Yeah.
I
So just
love
that.
I love what you said about trees as well. I mean, trees don't have the same kind of intellect that we do, and yet they're experiential in a way that can be very long lasting and profound and subtle and energetically resonant. Something that really I found mind opening was when she was talking about how creation is like birthing a baby. This is something I really have not had experience with. And yet it was really brilliant. It's you don't have to like build it brick by brick. It's nature is doing it, and it happens spontaneously. And again, it's experientially, it's beyond my realm. Yet I found it really just delightful to as a metaphor, an allegory, or a reality that shows, along with what Victoria was just saying about how creation is a spontaneous, natural process, not something that we're doing.
Well, we have some comments and some questions for all of you. First off, I wanted to just read a beautiful comment from Ayada. And let me go back and find it. She says, "Tonight has been a game changer for me. It feels like all the insight and experience I've had over a lifetime has suddenly entered a synthesis zone, and it's all starting to make sense in a much larger, comprehensive, and profound way. I'm starting to see the roadmap through these momentous times. Thank you, everybody." So that makes me very happy to read that. And Grace Denise said something really beautiful for you, Dr. Larry. She writes, "Dr. Larry, I hope your understanding of this new science revolution can expand globally and reach people in the particular ways that can speak to them most truthfully." Absolutely. And then there's been several questions. So now we're getting to the question part for both of you about free will, divine will, destiny. Where do all those fit into this matrix of understanding?
You want to hit it, or I'm yeah.
Go ahead. If you've got something, I'll say something too. Go ahead.
Okay, beautiful. I think, someone was saying free will or God's will, or it's the same. It's the same ultimately. And the way it's been explained to me is that part of the human experience, right, is the free will is, where we can explore anything, we can do anything, we can create anything, and we can forget, that we are a little finger or a little emanation of the one divine source, right? In the best possible way. And so free will is that we can explore wherever we want, whatever we want to do. And in so doing, we will rediscover ourselves. Right? So I don't think that there's an independent will above and beyond the human will. It's just a matter of you're exploring as your little beam of, light from the one divine source. And eventually, through that exploration, you remember that you're part of all that is to begin with. All right. That's all I got.
That's great.
Some people talk about the question of free will and determination. And if we can, for example, if we can tune into the conscious unified field and perceive the future, well, then did we really have a choice? And the thing is that both of those can be there at the same time. We have infinite free will. We have we're in a state of superposition. All possibilities are there. We can choose among those. And yet we do. And so we can, because we can tune into the conscious unified field and we can see ahead. It's like seeing out the front of my boat here. I can see some of the things ahead that I haven't yet arrived at, but I'll still arrive at them. They'll still happen. We'll still make the free choices as we go along. So those aren't contradictory when you consider that who you really are goes beyond time and space.
And it's not linear, right? It's not that
Right.
there's
Not
just
linear.
one path, right? I know that as a psychic, as an intuitive, and I don't specialize in precognition. It's not my favorite thing to do. But I know many people do. And what I've always had a deep understanding is you're just tapping into the probability of where things are heading. And my guides always prompt me to say too, there's multiple yous doing multiple things all at the same time. So you're tuning in, and tell me if this makes sense physically, but you're tuning into whatever's going on from your particular point of attraction. So your particular lens of awareness. But anything is possible at any moment, and everything is happening in every moment. And so it's really just pinning down where your consciousness is focused now and where you are heading, where you are pointing towards next. So I don't know if it makes perfect sense to me, but maybe the scientist can explain it or unexplain it. Well,
that does make sense. And keep in mind, of course, that life is an experience. Life is not the universe is an experience. The universe is not a thing. Life is not a series of events. It's a series of experiences. I'm going to read something from Erwin Schrödinger, who is one of the founders of quantum mechanics, a very straight, hardcore scientist guy, not a mystic of some sort, not a woo-woo guy. I mean, the Schrödinger equations are what describe the probabilities of quantum mechanical events throughout the universe. He said, quote, so this was in his book called What is Life? So let us see whether we cannot draw the correct non-contradictory conclusion from the following two premises. One, my body functions as a pure mechanism according to the laws of nature. Two, yet I know by incontrovertible direct experience that I am directing its motions, of which I foresee the effects that may be fateful and all important, in which case I feel and take responsibility for them. The only possible inference from these two facts is, I think that I in the widest meaning of the word, that is to say, every conscious mind that has ever said or felt, I am the person, if any, who controls the motion of the atoms according to the laws of nature. So we are the conscious unified field. It's not like God's out there sometime and do we attune to God or not? It can be very much misinterpreted if you say you are God. Well, but the kingdom of heaven within, that makes sense. That everyone can understand. We are the conscious unified field. And when we create, it's not like there's some other bigger will out there or some smaller will out there or me or you. As Victoria said, from the perspective of oneness, it's all one.
Yes. I was getting ready to. So here's a beautiful. I want to read some of what Rihanna wrote, and then that leads to actually something I want to share, and then I want to ask. She brings up, "My will is thy will," and that speaks to me because my primary mantra that I run when I'm noticing that my ego is getting the best of me, my way of kind of pulling it back is I do a mantra of "My will and thy will are one." My will and thy will are one. And that just helps me to kind of pull it together. Rihanna continues with, "There are levels of self with free will. So there's a part of receiving this higher self will, soul will, great spirit's will, the will of creation, and we have threads to it all," which is very, very interesting, and I agree. Now, here's the question for the two of you. Studies have shown that most people on the planet, regardless of their religion or their culture, believe that we are living in a time, some people call it Armageddon, some call it the apocalypse, some call it an awakening world. But it's a fascinating moment in time that almost everyone polled and questioned, regardless of where they live and what they believe that this is some sort of an end time or new beginning or something. So if indeed there's truth to that, there's the majority of the planet is holding the vision that we are on the edge of evolution, is what Scarlett calls it. Some people believe that there's a bifurcation coming or a trifurcation coming, um, and or multiple realities. So where do you stand with the possibility that we are already splitting off into all these parallel Earths, or that there's going to be a moment in time where there's a splitting off into different parallel Earths?
All right. I think that what is taking place is that when the cracks start to appear in the wall, the attention goes to the foundation. And the world is in a less than totally ideal state today. And people can't really ignore that. And I think all of the predictions that about apocalypse and everything's going to be horrible, those predictions were, yeah, that's what would happen if there weren't a huge uprising of consciousness. And there is a huge uprising of consciousness because people are waking up to, oh my gosh, the business as usual isn't really working. What's really going on with life? They tune within. They discover there's much more to life than they previously realized. They seek that, and then they start to learn that, and then they start to teach that, and they become a part of this hologram of cosmic consciousness that the human race is now creating. And all of the negativity that I see, I just talked about this a little earlier, it's the disresonances on the way out. I mean, cockroaches are sensitive to light. Light hurts their heads. So they turn around, so their behind gets between them and the light, and they go away from the light. So the disresonances are being, in a sense, awakened. But that can go two ways. The disresonance can become awakened and dissolve the disresonance and turn toward the light, or the disresonances can be thrown out, like you sweep the dust out of the room, you kick some dust up in your face. So all of the disresonance that we see in the world, all the disharmony, it's the disresonances, the kinks in the collective consciousness are being dissolved. And I think where we're headed is one unified collective consciousness of peace and harmony, an age of enlightenment. Now, I think there are going to be some challenging times, but there have been some. There will be some even more challenging times between here and there. That's where I think we're going. I think what's actually happening is a huge uprising of enlightenment, and everything else is a sideshow or a byproduct.
Yeah, that pretty much sums it up. I also think, I mean, and this is what's been shown to me again and again. We're at a time where, as awareness of the level of vibration or level of expanded awareness of more and more people on the planet, more people are living from the soul lens predominantly than, not more people, but more people relative to before are living more from the soul lens versus the lower egoic lens. And so, because of that, it does a couple of things. One, it illuminates some of the stuff that's been there all along, that's been a little funky. And more people, too, are reacting to it, because all of a sudden now things like war, things like power over, things like um, inequities in sexes and gender, all of these things now, there's a huge proportion of the population that says that doesn't feel right. That doesn't feel good. Whereas before, these things were just accepted as this is how things are. Maybe, I take over your village, I rape your women, like this, I take all your stuff. This is how life is supposed to be. But you see, now there's so many people on the planet where that doesn't feel resonant anymore. And so I think that some of the teachings about that separation or split, I want to get this from the guides, but it's really around helping people to do a couple of things. One, recognizing that things look worse because of the difference between a lot of the higher bandwidth of consciousness right now. And now we're seeing all of these things again for fresh eyes. And so, when you go through a new evolution, you start to really notice where you're out of alignment, and those things get really loud and extra uncomfortable. And so that's what we're experiencing right now. But the other thing, and again, this is just what I'm hearing right now, take it or leave it, is this idea of this bifurcation, or this kind of splitting off. I think there's different ways of understanding it. I think we all exist, in our own little reality. So it could be very possible that some people, aspects of, the human consciousness will go one place and others will stay somewhere else. But I think there's a lot of problems, I think, with thinking about things that way. And I think the better way to think about it is stay with the vibration, your own highest vibration, align with that, focus on that, allow that, because that will bring everybody up. That will bring everybody up, and that will enhance you and others. And don't worry about what anyone else is doing. I think that's something that, humans really want to do. When we see something we don't like, we want to control it. When someone's doing something we don't agree with it, we want to stop them. We want to fix it. We want to convince them to do what we do. And every once in a while, someone's open to that and they ask you a question. And by all means, share your expanded perspective. But also know that by aligning with your own light and holding your own highest truth, you don't have to worry about what the rest of humanity is doing. You just stay in your own lane. And I think a lot of those teachings are about that.
Beautiful. Yeah, one of the things, and this is one of the main reasons I do this show, is because I do want us to have a very positive vision for the future.
Yeah.
And sadly, most Hollywood movies, most television shows depict the future as this, post-nuclear war, dystopian, terrible society. And I so appreciate every now and then when there's a positive vision of the future, because that's so important. Now, speaking of positive visions for the future, we were joking in the green room before we came on the show tonight about what if somebody asks a question about aliens or it up. And actually, we have done many, many, many shows recently about disclosure and about what's happening. We've had really some of the experts in the field, like Danny Sheehan, and people that have really been in this field for a long, long time, sharing about what's being exposed. I'm curious if, in your positive vision for the future, and this is a question for both of you, for you, Victoria, and all of your guides, and Larry, you and your kind of cosmic awareness, do you perceive that welcoming and finally receiving wisdom from our more evolved galactic family is a big part of our immediate future?
Go ahead.
Me? Okay. Something I've been thinking about a lot recently, mostly because knowing people like you, Scott, it was never on my radar or something I cared about before, in all honesty. Um, Even though I have, throughout the work that I've done, I have certainly communicated with beings and guides that, identify as being from other places, like extraterrestrial origin. But I think it's all about this idea, that we are part of something bigger than ourselves, that we're part of something bigger than ourselves. And part of expanded awareness is seeing what's been there all along and opening ourselves up to it and feeling the love that's been coming at us from all over the universe all the time, and now being able to say, okay, I see we're part of this, good morning, I'm waking up, and bringing that here. So that's the way that I see the lens, see it. And yeah, exactly. We're ETs too. So I don't know any of I know there's a lot of details and a lot of things people talk about and different kinds of ETs and I don't know any of that, but from the lens that I do know, we're all connected, we're all loved. All of these other beings have been here all along. There's reality exists on multiple planes, and I feel that as we expand our awareness, we're tapping into all of the sources of wisdom and love and support that has been available to us all along.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Mhm.
Dr. Larry, what do you have to say?
All right. Well, first of all, this is outside of my realm of expertise. It's not something that I have studied extensively or which I have personal experience. I did take astronomy at Harvard. And what my professor there said was, if you ask any competent astronomer what the probability is that there is intelligent life elsewhere, let's say that if we have a planet that's just like Earth in terms of its ability to support life, let's say whenever that happens, there's 1 in a million chance that life will actually arise. Well, if that's the case, then there will be trillions of other places where it's arisen. So, I mean, when the Hubble telescope pointed at a spot, there's stars and galaxies all over the place, so they pointed at a little spot where there was nothing, and they kept it pointed there for a long time so they could pick up very faint bits of light, and that exploded into more and more and more and more galaxies. So the probability that there is intelligent life elsewhere is people who think about it mathematically is a virtual certainty. And so we have had accelerating scientific development maybe for 100 years, maybe you could say for 1,000 or 2,000 years. The Earth has been around for something like 4 billion years. So where will we be in another 100 years? Where will we be in 1,000 years? Where will we be in 1,000,000 years? If we manage to survive, where are we going to be in a couple more billion years with an exponentially accelerated development of technology? Well, we'll be pretty far ahead of where we are now. So given the probability of other intelligent life elsewhere, and given how much longer some of those planets have been out there than we have, the probability that there are very highly developed species elsewhere is high. I haven't met them. However, the probability is high. And the way I see the universe is we all come from the conscious unified field. At one level, we are all one. The universe is resonant frequencies vibrating from the same unified, infinitely harmonious field. So I don't look at what's out there as being terrible and threatening. I look at what's out there as being potentially harmonious, potentially something we can learn from, potentially some beings that we can teach. So I look at the universe as being ultimately a harmonious place. And yes, there's light and darkness and positivity and negative and all that, but I see all of this as part of a unified rise in the level of consciousness that we're experiencing here on Earth today.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Last comment and last question, and then we've got it's 9 o'clock, and you guys have been amazing staying longer. So thank you so much. Iota writes, I imagine that in time we will also be traveling the universe, and less advanced civilizations will be debating whether there is other intelligent life in the universe. Absolutely. Rihanna writes, and this is an interesting question. If we can embrace that there is no matter in terms of how we have previously believed it to be so, then isn't it time to realize that the planets are not physical objects? How does that one land for each of you?
You got to take that one first.
Okay. Well, the planets are physical objects on the material level. They also, like everything else and everyone else, also has subtler aspects to them. And again, this is astronomy. Astrology is not my expertise. However, it's not unreasonable to think that planets are not just rocks. The Earth isn't just a rock, and our body isn't just a bunch of chemicals and electrons and neutrons and protons. And it stands to reason that planets themselves and different celestial bodies and configurations of celestial bodies not only have their physical nature, but they have subtle energies. Victoria was talking earlier about places. Places have a resonance to them. Well, there's no reason why big places that circle around the sun don't have a resonance to them as well. Again, what those resonances are isn't something that I've really studied. It's outside my realm of expertise, but the phenomenon being real stands to reason.
Beautiful. That makes sense. All right. Final thoughts from both you, Victoria, and Dr. Larry, and then we're going to take a look one more time at your websites.
All right. I want to give him the last word. So my final thoughts are thank you, Scott. This was so much fun. And thank you, Larry. Thank you, everyone. And can I just say something about the day that we're on today in the United States and the 250th anniversary of our country? Because I think this is a couple of years ago, I did an episode of my podcast where I channeled some of the founding fathers, which was way out of my comfort zone, but really super cool. And it was a time when I was feeling a little uncomfortable being in the United States, and connecting with them was so powerful because they talked about this experiment. And all of the love that they put into it and some of the ego they put into it. They were sharing with me about how some of those things are still going on. But what really struck me was we are part of being in the United States, we are part of something that I think was a really, really beautiful experiment, and with really, really pure, beautiful intentions. And even though things look a little funky right now, the founding fathers, when I did this episode, were so encouraging and so positive, and thinking about where they started, what they were working with. They thought we'd come a lot further than a lot of us think. And it was a very, very encouraging episode. And so today, on this 250th anniversary, I just want to tap into them because they've been nudging me this whole time. Just to remember, the seeds were planted 250 years ago about creating a new kind of government and really a new kind of way of being. And yeah, we're still working out the kinks, as Dr. Larry said. Sometimes, through growth, we have to see, all the dust gets stirred up, and our things look a little dusty right now. But they just want you to continue to hold the faith, and, to understand that amongst them, right, they weren't perfect by any means, but amongst them were the seeds of this great creation. And it's part of what's going on, not just in your country, but in your planet, overall. And so the more that we can tap into that, to honor that, to find that where it's true in ourselves and true in others, and not just focus on where it is not, and just to remember the beautiful seeds have been planted, and nurture them, honor them, and we will all see them come to fruition and then some. So that was their message. So thank you for letting me share that.
I'm so glad that you did, because I wanted to do something about today's a pretty big day.
Yeah, and my dress. Sorry.
Oh, and well, you want to show your.
No, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was feeling warm and I took this off right on cue. Anyway, Scott, please go ahead.
Red, white, and blue dress that maybe we're gonna have an Omashar song in a moment. So when you watch Victoria dance, I'll put this
Now I'm gonna have to dance.
dance, check out her red, white, and blue dress. And actually, seriously, I can't have a better message than you channeling our founding fathers. So thank you for
Thank
handling
you, Scott.
part of the show. Thank you very much. Dr. Larry, what a blessing to meet you. And a reminder again, when I talked to Scarlett today, she was really excited and she wanted me to make sure I invite you to the Edge of Evolution. So maybe it's a week before what you're doing with Victoria. So let's all gather in Santa Cruz and then head on down to San Diego, further south, and go to Cactus Blossom Retreat Center. I think August is shaping up to be a very magical month.
Yes.
Final thoughts, Dr. Larry.
As to what is going on right now at this moment in time. When we started out as human beings, we had our teeth and our hands and feet. And then we developed tools. And the tools allowed us to do more in the world, to have more independence from our environment. And that was at the material level. We went to a somewhat subtler level and we discovered fire. And that gave us much more power, much more independence from our environment. We could now cook food, we could stay warm during the winter. So we went from the material level to a subtler level and we got more power, more abilities. When you combine tools and chemical reactions, we went to the chemical level, we got the Industrial Revolution, and a lot of the things that we had to do physically could then be done by machines. We go to a deeper level, so we went to, a deeper level of creation. We go to a deeper level of creation than that. We go to the electronic level, to the electromagnetic field, and that gives us instantaneous communication. It gives us the ability to create this podcast and have our pictures and voices all over the world. It gives us the ability to have computers. It gives us potentially AI, and some other time we can talk about AI and how to integrate human intelligence into AI, which is something I have a couple of patents pending on. So we go to a deeper level. We go to the material level, the chemical level, those combined levels. We go to electromagnetic level, and each level gives us more power. We go to the nuclear level, the subatomic level. That gives us much more power, much more command of nature, and it also puts us in a situation where we could exterminate ourselves, which we never could have done before. So with great power comes great responsibility. We have more abilities, more responsibility. As when we go to a subtler level, there's much more power available to us. But what is taking place, in my view, in the world right now? And I think the founding fathers had a pre-vision of this even 250 years ago. What is taking place now is that we are going to a more profound level of creation, which gives us a level of a much greater power, much greater ability, much more attunement to nature, and much more ability to create from a deeper level of nature. From the quantum mechanical level, we go to the level of the conscious unified field. And I think when we look back from, say, 1,000 years from now or 5,000 years from now, what happened during this period of history? What happened was human beings brought within the realm of human exploration, scientific proof, scientific understanding, and practical application, the most fundamental level of creation, the level of the conscious unified field. And from that level, we were able to create a whole new world of harmony, in tune with ourselves, in tune with each other, in tune with the fundamentals of creation. And together, we create a hologram where the whole is greater than sum of the parts. When we're functioning from that level of the conscious unified field, that's a level where we're all one, we're all the same. When we come together, we create a hologram, each radiating from that level. We have the possibility, and I think that this is where the world is heading, to a world of harmony where the primary resonance is one of love and unity and connection between all human beings. That's where I think we're going, and I think we're at a transition point there.
I think you're right on. I think you're absolutely right on. And, you're such an inspiration, Dr. Larry. And Victoria, you know that I love you. And boy, you knocked it out of the park by bringing Dr. Larry on tonight. It was interesting. We had a whole other show planned for today, and it got postponed to next month. And at the same time, I met Victoria and Dr. Larry, and it was like, is there any chance you guys can do 4th of July? And miracle of miracles, they said yes. And then I, reached out to Scarlett and Dr. Cat to see, because I thought there'd be great add-ons. And this has turned into a really wonderful show, and a show that I encourage everybody to watch it over and over. We will post it on our YouTube channel tomorrow. I'll send it out in an email to everybody. This is a really important show to present to people, especially people that are feeling skeptical or cynical or worried about the future. So God bless you both so very, very much for what you're doing and being on our show. And I want to one more time just remind everybody, especially if there's people who maybe tuned in a little bit later, that a wonderful place to go is to the Cactus Blossom retreat site. And so if you go to this page, cactusblossomretreat.com, that is the wonderful place that Victoria is the steward of. And then go to where it says events, upcoming events, bing. And that, of course, takes you right to the retreat that I'm really excited about. August 20th to the 23rd, The Science of Creating Miracles with Dr. Larry and Victoria. And it's going to be amazing. So I really hope that many of our Global Peace Tribers will come to this. And also hopefully many of us will come to Santa Cruz. So we've got back-to-back amazing things happening. And tonight has really been something. Dr. Larry, it's amazing to meet you. Thank you so much. Victoria, I love and adore you. And we still have a little bit of show left. We are going to go to Omoshar for a song. And then we're going to celebrate a pair of birthdays, and then close out with tonight's prayer circle. But here he is, Mr. Red, White, and Blue, which is impressive considering he's a Brit. And then we took the country away from your people. Our people took the country from your people.
Sheesh, there's only one of us here.
Oh, that's right. Okay, we're good. We're good.
Anyway, that's another lifetime. Ooh. Turning to the face of those who need the light of truth to help them turn the other cheek and turn around. Lift each other up into the highest point of view so that together we can move to higher ground. 2, 3, 4. Contemplating everything I knew, seems as though there's not much left that I would hold on to. Sun and moon and stars and light and earth. Actually, contemplating what is pure and true. Sun and moon and stars and light and earth and water too. We are rising, soaring, flying, living life so free. We are flowing, changing, growing, loving all we see. Glad coming home again. Open hearts and open minds and open doors and loving friends. Look at the one who's standing by you now. Destiny is in our hands, so leave the density behind. We are rising, soaring, flying, living life so free. We are flowing, changing, growing, loving all we see. Turning to the face of those who need the light of truth, to help them turn the other cheek and turn around. Lift each other up into the highest point of view, so that together we can move to higher ground. Contemplating everything I knew, seems as though there's not much left that I would hold on to. Contemplating what is pure and true. Sun and moon and stars and light and earth and water too. We are rising, soaring, flying, living life so free. We are flowing, changing, growing, loving all we see. Contemplating everything I knew, seems as though there's not much left that I would hold on to.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you so much, Omar Shah. And thank you, everybody, for dancing. We got to see the red, white, and blue dress of Victoria.
I know that was the best part, I think.
I enjoyed Lynn. Every time you use the word cheek, she would tap her cheeks. I don't know if you caught that, but
Cheek? I didn't write that. Anyway, whatever. There's no cheeks in there.
there was something. There was something where she kept uh, everything would. Oh, anyway, it's in there. Something. There was a thing.
Oh, actually, there is, to help them turn the other cheek and turn around. You're right.
The
Excuse
cheek.
me.
Every time she would tap her cheek. It was very sweet, very adorable. All right.
And yeah, and just I'm so touched by tonight. I don't think we've ever had such an enlightening show ever. They've all been awesome, but building up to this moment, and Dr. Larry and Victoria, you just put the icing on the whole universe. So thank you.
Yeah, this has been Dr. Larry, we've been doing this show for 6.5 years, and this one was definitely one of my favorites. So thank you so much. And yet there's still more. We have a couple of birthdays to acknowledge. I'm going to acknowledge the first one. And DR, if you can put more light on, you're getting really, really dark. But I want to put our dance team is often led by Adora. And I love that you're dancing tonight with the American flag. How perfect. And it is your birthday. And Adora, we have a global peace tribe tradition that on a person's birthday, they share their vision for this new cycle around the sun. And since we're all about creating and manifesting miracles tonight, what's the vision you want to share with us tonight that we will hold for you for this next cycle around the sun?
Well, the IJ had a thing where you write in 6 words what your vision is for 2026. I said in 2026, magic and miracles abound.
There it is, magic and miracles. And you know what's interesting? Remember, Kristen Hoffman and I, we were together over the holidays, and we came up with the same thing for 2026. It's magic, manifesting, and miracles was, and we did a whole show on that. So there is a theme. So maximum grace for you for this next cycle around the sun, taking us to next July 4th.
Mhm.
Have wonderful miracles manifesting in your life, Adora, and you are a most beloved and precious member of our Global Peace Tribe. Thank you for being with us on almost every show, dancing up a storm and being such a source of inspiration for us. Thank you.
Thank you.
And to acknowledge our other birthday, here's Deara.
Hi, thank you, Scott. I was looking for Zach. I don't know if he's still here, but Zach also had a birthday, so we want to acknowledge that as well. And I don't think he's still here, so we just want to send our love and light out to you as well, Zach. Great conversations in the chat. And with that, I guess we'll move into our prayer time.
Absolutely.
Hey, one of the things I put in the chat earlier was with our 250th birthday. In numerology, for me, the 5 and the 2 make a 7, and for me, that's to expect a miracle. And then with the 0 as infinite, we can just keep pouring more blessings into our beloved country and expect a miracle in terms of our leadership in paving the way for more manifestation and miracles in terms of a world that works for everyone. And of course, because we're the Cosmic Global Peace Tribe, we believe that it's a cosmos that works for everyone as well. And speaking in those terms with Scarlett and the trees, it reminded me of that song in Jesus Christ Superstar where the rocks and stones themselves begin to sing. So Hosanna, hey Sana, we know that there's so much more that we don't even know yet in our limited consciousness. And yet in this group and beyond, we're helping to expand those possibilities using the mathematical probabilities of the impossible becoming possible. And we love that. Thank you so much. And so we bless all the feet that have walked this earth. We bless the indigenous tribes. We bless those that came before those that we know. And we bless all those that come in after. We bless those who are brave enough to speak the truth, to speak many truths, to allow room for many truths to coexist. And we know that this is true and this is right. We believe in goodness and beauty. And we also know that as we pray for the larger perspectives, the larger planet, we also bring it down into our own bodies, our own healing. I've been beaming energy for the last couple hours to our beloved Scotty Satori, who really needs our love and our energy now. My hands have just been on fire, and I got a note that he's been receiving that. So if we can all add to that, sending our love and light to Scotty, and let's do the impossible and make it probable for a miraculous healing for him and all those that need it. Scoop up some of this beautiful energy into your own body, into your own lives, to those you love, those you know, and just feel that pulse expanding, expanding, expanding. And at the cellular level, we take this vibration of light and sound and frequency, all that's been spoken of, that we've been creating and co-creating, expanding together tonight, and just pulse that out through your entire body. Healing, healing, healing through love, through light, through sound, through the silence. And we know this is true and right and just. And so it is.
As always, let's take a minute of silence where we come together. I'll go to gallery view, where we come together and everybody can send their own prayer, harnessing all the energy of our Global Peace Tribe, those who are watching in the Zoom room, those who are watching the recordings, and sending prayers for whatever is important to you and alive in your heart. Thank you, everybody. Couple of final announcements for right now. Just again, I noticed Scotty or George Noble wanted to know about what's happening in Santa Cruz, and it's the Edge of Evolution, August 13 to 16. If you go to edgeofevolutionevent.com, and then it requires a code. This is invitational only. It's not open to the public, but Scarlett really loves our Global Peace Tribers. She knows that we have the consciousness that's appropriate to attend. It's a limited number of participants. So actually, to even get into the website, and I put it into the chat box, you go to edgeofevolutionevent.com, and then you have to use a code to even get into the website. And the code is big E, little O, big E, as in Edge of Evolution, 2026. So that's how you get in, and check it out. I think that it's going to be quite amazing. I am planning on attending, and sure hope that some of us go to that together, and then we head down to San Diego to be with our beloved Victoria and Dr. Larry. And again, I want to thank them both for just a remarkable, remarkable show tonight. Also, Victoria did put into the chat box the link to, if you want to hear when she channeled the Founding Fathers, and I'm going to go to that link. If you go to her website, Victoria Shaw, intuitive.com, and it's episode 218, Finding Your Freedom. Episode 218, Finding Your Freedom. And you can find that on her website. So that's pretty cool. Also, always like to let people know about what's coming up. And our next show is going to be another collaboration with our wonderful, beloved Reverend Jeffrey Colebrook. He's put together another great show. And I want to acknowledge that Omashar is really the producer of this show. I produce a lot of the shows, but this is an Omashar and Reverend Jeffrey production, where we will be celebrating creating peace through inspirational music and the wisdom of Ernest Holmes. And there's a lot of wonderful guests. It's going to be a pretty full show. So that's going to be on Wednesday night, July 8th, our next show. And then a week from tonight, it's our monthly Soul Search show. So we've got more psychics and healers coming, and that's going to be next Saturday night, a week from tonight. Ah, what a show. Thank you, everybody, so much. I'm going to go to gallery view one last time. Big love to each and every one of you. Oh my God, Dr. Larry is still with us. He is, what a gift, what a blessing. And Rihanna Skywalker and Trisha and Adora's birthday and Brenda and Susan and Doug May and all of you. I feel like Dorothy's saying goodbye to everybody at the end of The Wizard of Oz. And oh, Mashar, you were in my dream too. God's blessings, everybody. Have a wonderful weekend. Happy celebration to our country. And show this recording to people. This is a good one to introduce people to the Awakening